Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia, College Football Mafia show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me we have a bunch of characters like the Brady Bunch that decided to join me on stage tonight. So I'll quickly introduce everybody. I got Immaculate View, Moen, who's not wearing any hair tonight. We have Scott Solomon, who's our guest, and he's going to tell us kind of what's going on with Miami tonight. And then the Wild Ute, who's not last at all, just happened to show up last. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing great, Bomber.
Excellent. Busy. Oof.
Busy. So we've got a lot to cover and not a lot of time to do it. So we're going to jump right in just really quick. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are under our names. And then turn on your notifications. And make sure you know the times that we do shows and also when we tweet, because we talk about all the stuff that we're going to cover in a show, usually in the day before. So please subscribe and consider being a member of the Big 12 Mafia family. I'm going to run this video, tells you how to do that, and then we'll get right into the call.
Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the upper right corner. There are several membership levels to choose from.
Thank you, Moen, for putting that together. So I'm going to start off with a super chat before I shout out anybody tonight. Ryan Willie is in the door for $5. He's one of our members, and he says, will this partnership between the Big and the SEC lead to a merger, especially with ESPN Fox reaching a deal to do streaming service? What do you think about that, Ute?
I don't think that the merger is imminent, but this is the building blocks for potentially a super league, like you're thinking of, Ryan, here. This is tectonic, though. I mean, this is such a big deal here. And like it explains perfectly why the strategic group was formed last Friday. Like, why the heck would these two conferences do a strategic group and everything? Everyone was asking those questions, right? There's the lawsuits hanging out there and stuff, but really this was lurking beneath it all. It's the partnerships. Like the biggest battle in sports was between ESPN and Fox, right? That really was said to be the biggest battle in sports. And like, it's unbelievable that they would partner up and do this new venture here with bringing Warner Brothers. And I can't believe it. But I don't think that this is going to be it's not going to lead to a breakaway immediately, but it makes you ask the question, what does this mean for 10 years down the line? And that's a good one.
Immaculate.
Yeah, I'm with him. I don't think that this is necessarily showcasing an imminent merger by their own words, and we'll be going into that a little bit later here with the ESPN article. They're not trying to do that now. You know, maybe they're covering, but I don't think that's happening. I think they're more worried about House versus NCAA and trying to get ahead of that. In terms of the Fox ESPN merger, college football plays a part of that, but it's by no means the biggest part. There's a lot of other sports and professional sports that are a bigger part of that melding. So, but it will probably help move things along, possibly. Like you're saying, ESPN and Fox are no longer enemies. So it's just probably a little less pushback in terms of some of these schools maybe moving.
All bets are off. Moen.
Yeah, that was a great point right there. This is just a small part of it. This whole ESPN, Fox, Warner Brothers deal is about eliminating competition. They no longer have to bid against each other because they're going to get it one way or the other. So when the NBA rights come up, they're not going to be bidding against each other this time. They'll only be bidding against NBC. Maybe CBS, Paramount might want something. But as far as I know, the only one I've ever mentioned outside of those three is NBC. So now they've only got to worry about outbidding NBC and not worry about outbidding if you're Fox, ESPN, or if you're ESPN, Fox. So
right. What do you think, Scott?
I don't see a merger between the Big Ten and the SEC happening anytime soon. There might be a partnership where they have a couple of weeks where the Big Ten will play an SEC team at home, and then you'll have one the following week on the road. But pretty much similar to what they do in college basketball with the ACC and the Big Ten. But I don't foresee a merger. As far as the ESPN Fox partnership with Warner Brothers, I kind of like it because it's going to take away competition in the marketplace, and I'm hoping that it's going to keep the four conferences together to where they don't have to fight for the same dollar.
That's a good point. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit. I think that is really the thing that people have been talking about before this news came out today. There was the NLRB, right? I have that right? Immaculate.
Yep. National Labor
NLRB,
Relations Board.
and then we have the House versus NCAA. We have all those greater NCAA lawsuits and stuff we were going to talk about. And then Florida State possibly moving, and out of nowhere comes this media deal. So we'll dive into this more. But Ryan, I really appreciate you putting this out for us. You're the first in the house to give us a super chat before we started, and I really appreciate you doing that for us. Let's get a clap. There we go. Quickly, let's do some shout outs, and then we'll jump right into Miami and what pretty much is going on in the ACC with Scott. So first of all, David Hackett is here. He says, hello, Bomber, Wild Ute, Moen, and Immaculate. Breaking news every day. Have you guys heard anything regarding Big and SEC? I think we have. Yep. College football working together to get realignment from the ACC and who goes where. That was a lot to type there, David. We appreciate it. Definitely. And I hope we can answer most of those questions tonight. John Dry is in here from West Texas. He's a newly minted member. Appreciate you getting here, John. Jan Hulk comes to us from Slovenia. Good to see you, Jan. You should really be in bed. Let's see here. Let's see who else do we got. So many people joined early. Howdy says Jim F. Joe Z says horse trading. Yeah, maybe there is horse trading. It's possible. Let's see. Jim F. Moen, are you drinking from a red Solo cup tonight?
No, I like old school country. Give me Willie Whalen. I was never into Toby Keith. Sorry.
Okay. Oh yeah. So should we do a salute to Toby Keith really quick? If you didn't know, Toby Keith died today, 62. I didn't think he was that old, to be honest. Let's say Summit Hawks says hello to everybody. Don Scruggs is in the house. Laura Weiss. Geez, there's so many. Buckshot Kid. I'm gonna have to move my mic. Sorry. Conundrum is here, and BR. Let's just Sergeant Pickles. Sorry. There's Dylan Vance. All right, Two Master. There's too many to keep going. I appreciate it. Daniel Gygax and Big Lubbock. Thanks for being here, guys. Okay, so first I'm going to let Scott go for a little bit. Tell us a little bit about himself and what he does and what he covers. And then we're going to go to an article that he wrote up recently about Deion Sanders. So that's Colorado, and anybody in the Big 12 better be paying attention. So go ahead, Scott. I'll give you a few minutes here.
Thanks. I'm a national columnist for Mike Farrell Sports. We cover college football and the NFL draft and high school recruiting. I cover mostly college football and the draft. I also write for Fansided, a couple of their websites. And college football and pro football are really in my wheelhouse. The ACC, the Big 12, that's pretty much where I'm at. Enjoy what I do. It's just, the University of Miami is in my heart. I bleed orange and green. I graduated from there. And ever since they won that first natty in 1984, when they won from the 83 season, it was just a love affair ever since.
Well, we appreciate you being here tonight. I told you before, it's been tough getting Clemson or Miami people to even return a DM. So you being here is kind of a breakthrough for us. And so we're hoping you can answer a bunch of questions that we have with the ACC and realignment and where Miami stands. But first, let's get to this article that you wrote. Sorry, what'd you say?
I said, I'll do my best.
Okay, all right. Let's get to this article you wrote. First off, and this is about Michael Penix. Opts out of the Senior Bowl, relies on performances at practices during the week. So what did you learn about Michael Penix? I personally want Seattle to draft him, but tell us a little bit about what you learned on this article.
Well, what I learned when I wrote the story, as I was watching the game, he had a decent week of practice. He was very accurate. His throws were on the money, and he really couldn't gain much by playing in the game. It was really all downside in case there was an injury or he did something that would prevent him from working out at the combine later this month. So I think he did the right thing by opting out of the Senior Bowl. But there were 30 opt-outs on the national squad, and that's what led Michael Penix Jr. to withdraw from the game, because there were so many players that weren't playing. He was afraid he was going to get hurt, and he'd have nobody to throw to. So I can understand his thought process. I think he went into a tier 1 quarterback. I'd love to see your Seahawks draft him early, but I just don't know how long he's going to be around. He should be around probably until the middle of the first round. I think he'll be the 3rd or 4th quarterback taken.
So let's talk about quarterbacks really quick. That's going to be a huge button item for the draft in April. For you guys, and we don't talk a ton of football, but we do talk players, and quarterback obviously in college is very, very important. Somebody give me their top 3 quarterbacks going into the draft.
Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then a steep drop off, and then Penix for me.
Jalen Daniels.
No,
Okay.
Jalen Daniels.
Williams
I would
not
not.
top 3.
Yeah, Scott, you and I are the same. He's going to be the biggest bust, guys. Like,
I don't care.
From my
Somebody
perspective,
will reach for him. Somebody is going to reach for him.
That's good. He's bust central, guys. He doesn't have the frame for it. He
Let
doesn't
him
have the
go
arm
with
talent.
Cliff Kingsbury over to Washington.
Well, that Williams will go to Washington, though, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not a
Washington's
Caleb
gonna-
Williams fan.
Is Washington going to trade up to number 1 then?
Well, they're at number 2.
They're at number 2, and
So
it really
But
depends
does
on
Chicago
what
want
Denver and Chicago do.
Yeah, they'll trade up just because to stop anyone else from trading up ahead of them. Everyone knows they want him, so
all right. I think that I think Williams and Jaden Daniels are both going to be busts. I'll just say that.
I
Penix,
agree with
think
you.
is probably a 2nd or 3rd, but I think Caleb Williams, you saw him twice, right?
So
And
Caleb Williams live. I've seen him live. I've seen Patrick Mahomes live, and he's the best college player I've ever seen. I've been going to college football games for 25 years. A lot of college football games. Caleb Williams is the most talented player I've ever seen on the field. And like outside of like Mahomes, like I'm talking about college level. He really does look like Mahomes on the field. He just doesn't mental makeup. That's what you question with him, right?
yeah.
I think he's got $1 million arm and a 50-cent head.
There you go.
Well, but see, there's been a lot of people that were like that couldn't get over the hump because they Colin Kaepernick, I would put in that. He was a freak athletically, but I watched him tear apart BYU, and it was all because of his athleticism. You scheme around him, and he turned into a below average quarterback. So why couldn't Caleb Williams be in the same boat?
He could. I mean, he could. Caleb Williams is an unbelievable talent, like a very rare talent. You don't get that type of talent every day. That's a once in a 10-year talent profile in my view, like just based on like his physical makeups. But again, between the years, is he going to have the heart? Is he going to have the passion? Does he care? I mean, he's made millions of dollars in college anyway. Does he have the fire? I mean, Patrick Mahomes, the difference between him, he did have the fire. He grew up in a pro, system with his dad playing baseball, and he has that, the heart for it. But it's Caleb. That's the only question with him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Caleb first, just because he has that. Even though he's kind of a mess up top, if they can get through to him, he could be something special.
If they could get through him. I'm hearing
I wouldn't
all these,
bet on it.
But I'm hearing all these qualifiers. If he commits, if he wants to work hard, if this and if that.
But there's a lot of ego up there, and they see, and a lot of those coaches think that they can get through to anybody. We're a lot more cynical about that. They think they can, but beyond that, though, I think it really comes down to the type of quarterback you want. If it's a May, a Penix, Nix, or Daniels, any of those guys, it really comes down to what kind of a quarterback you want in your scheme. Me personally, I prefer Penix just because his passing, there isn't anyone else in that group that is equal to it. His movement in the pocket, but his downside is injury prone, and what happens if he gets that big shot in the NFL? That might be it. One shot, and that could be it for him. So
we got to quit talking about this because I am just itching for Seattle.
I know.
So I want him to fall to Seattle so bad. All right, let's get off of this. Thank you, Mike, for telling us about your article. I want everybody to go out and let me bring it up again. Make sure you tell everybody who you write for and where they can find your stuff. I want to make sure we do that.
This is on MikeFarrellSports.com, and you can also read my NFL work on FinFanatic.com with PH and NFLSpinZone.com.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to post the link to that article. Please check it out. It's good writing, people, and him coming here and being on our show and putting up with us tells you his temperament. So I appreciate.
I can't wait to hear about Miami here. So
Let's go.
we need to hear everything.
So
Scott, I know we got to get things. I'm itching.
Hang on. I know you want to go. I'll turn you loose.
We got our Miami guy doing gifting right now, so
we got new members. Okay. Ute is on the leash. I got to let him go. Okay. Rock and Rant, thank you so much for becoming a gifted one member, Big 12 Mafia membership to somebody else. Moen, tell everybody what that is.
Yeah, you can gift memberships in the chat by going to the bottom right corner of the chat window and selecting the cash icon. In the chat, Dan Miter was the one who received that membership from Rock and Rant. Dan, please make sure you thank Rock and Rant for doing that. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for doing that for us. That makes you a
winner.
Thank you very much, Rock and Rant. We appreciate you're new around here, and we appreciate you being a loyal member of the group. Okay, Ute, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know what's going on in Miami. Rock and Rant's a Miami diehard too. And we are so curious about this because in the ACC land, we talked to a lot of Florida State folks, a lot of them. And it's been pretty quiet around Clemson, and we're hearing more from Miami circles. But I'm curious, and what is the chatter locally about where Miami stands in realignment with the ACC, with its commitment? I'm just curious on where's the playing field right now going on.
Assuming the ACC does not pull a Pac-12 and have everybody scatter around the country, the ACC sticks around. Miami's going to stick around. I don't see Miami going into the Big Ten. I don't see Miami going into the Big 12 because, quite frankly, we don't want to go into cold weather cities. We enjoy playing in the southeast part of the country and going to Temple every now and then. Maybe we'll take another game up north. We go to Pitt every other year, but we don't want those cold weather games. You guys can have them. We used to go to school with suntan lotion on.
You think that we don't like those cold weather games? Ute and I love them.
You might love them, Bomber. I don't like them very much, so I have to deal with them here in Utah.
I like them. I think they're good.
I don't mind going to a cold weather game if it's once a year or twice a year, but it's nothing I want to make a living at.
Yeah. Very fair. All right. Did you want to follow up on that, Ute, or is that your first question?
Yeah, so there just seems to be a lot of smoke with different ACC schools. Obviously, you've heard it too, Scott. With Florida State and Clemson's being kind of quiet here, but there's a lot of chatter going on in the state of North Carolina and everything. So it's really interesting to hear that perspective too, because it seems like there might be a link or there might be a connection there between the Big Ten and Miami if things were to rupture, break apart in the ACC. It looks like it could be a pretty good fit from the surface and everything. So
according to my sources, the ACC is where Miami's going to stay unless it implodes. If it does implode, then I think you're right. They're a good fit for the Big Ten. I spoke to Dan Radakovich months ago about this, and he seems to be pretty steadfast that they're going to remain in the ACC and that they're not really going anywhere. And so we really have to see what happens. Florida State, I believe, is going to leave some way or another. That litigation is going to resolve itself. They'll settle that case by letting FSU leave, which will probably then have Clemson leave. And the ACC then will be looking for new members.
So, and I just want to shout out to Greg Flugars in the audience. Thanks for being here, Greg. I think I sent you the link. If you want to join the show, you're welcome to take it. My biggest question with Miami is, one, why are they waiting and not going with Florida State, trying to better themselves? And two, what happens if Florida State and Clemson both get the call up and Miami doesn't? What are you guys going to do?
Miami's not really looking for the call. Miami's looking to stand pat.
Okay.
Miami wants to help its ACC partners develop a super conference like the ACC used to be. And I'm not so sure that Miami wants to follow Florida State. You know, Florida and Florida State have been successful being in different conferences, with Florida being in the SEC and FSU being in the ACC. I think Miami and Florida State want to do that. I don't think they want to follow each other. Because if Miami leaves, then they're going to go to the Big Ten if they leave, which I think is a very big if. And Florida State really can go anywhere. I've heard SEC, I've heard Big Ten. It really depends where they want to set their footprint down.
The problem is if you lose Clemson and Florida State, you lose the lion's share of the strength of the conference. The league won't be worth as much money, will it?
Well, I think at that point, I think Notre Dame's got a decision to make as to whether or not they want to remain independent in football or join the ACC in football the way they did the rest of their sports.
Right.
The only thing that Notre Dame doesn't play in the ACC is ice hockey, because the ACC doesn't have an ice hockey league.
Right.
But I think the ACC can still be very strong and very competitive. I think they can grow. I think that by bringing in Stanford and Cal, I think it was a good move. Although I'm dreading the cross-country flight from Miami to California, especially if you don't have a bye week the following week. You only have to do it once every other year, but it's still going to make for a long week. And you're going to have the other non-revenue sports have to go and make the same trip, and they don't get to go as good as the football team does.
Right.
So, you know, it's going to be a learning curve.
Let's get a couple super chats in here. Lonnie Johansson, is one of our members. Says good evening from Kansas. So I appreciate that, Lonnie. And then Marcus Williams came in with a super chat for $5. That's on the topic we started the show with, but there's no reason we can't answer it further right now. He says new streaming app, Fox, ESPN, Warner Brothers, Big SEC are very close together with their networks working together. Greg broke the story earlier today. We all saw Greg. He did a fantastic job on his show tonight. Let's talk about that right now. At the end of the day, they're getting together as broadcast partners, not merging their conferences. Is this the first step in the gradual throwing together of those two leagues and everybody else is on the outside looking in?
It's the first step in like building a relationship, a business relationship, which is something, and it is very significant, but this isn't going to move anything tomorrow. I don't think that we're going to be seeing any kind of breakaway tomorrow and stuff, but this could be laying the groundwork for a future breakaway. And absolutely. I mean, these are the two biggest enemies in sports, Fox and ESPN, right? ABC. And all of a sudden, even deciding to do a business partnership together is big news. And these are like the backings of the SEC and the Big Ten. So of course, like there's a lot of connections here, and like those connections you would imagine over time would probably deepen. So it could point to something down the line, but nothing imminent.
The question that I have is whether or not the ACC and the Big 12 are going to put together their own partnership, similar to what the Big 10 and the SEC are doing. Right. Are we going to go from a Power 4 to a Power 2 in 5 or 10 years from now? Who knows?
You know, if I could jump in on that one right there, I think that's a great question, and how people are perceiving this, the perception of it, and what it actually is, and maybe what it isn't. I know you got a couple other super chats to get into, but if we could, there, Bomber, go into that ESPN.
Sure, I'm happy to. Let me bring this down.
Thank
you very much, Marcus, for the super chat. We appreciate it. Which one did you want?
ESPN article by Thamel.
Yep, I got it right here.
And it goes along with what he's saying, because this was also on a great show as well.
All right, let me bring it up. Okay,
so
go ahead.
If we come down to about the middle section of it,
okay,
you'll see. Let me give you the exacts.
Is there a landmark I'm looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. like you. Okay, if it comes down where it says like you're at it right there. Multiple sources.
All right.
When we see that multiple sources told ESPN there's a lot of chatter that this SEC Big Ten arm linking could manifest itself amid the lawsuits facing the NCAA. That's where I think the focus of this is. As it says, some of the wealthiest conferences want to find a way to settle those suits, particularly the billions in potential exposure of House versus NCAA, which that's real, folks. That's not, just overplaying. I mean, they're talking $4 or $5 billion in damages. And so that they could use the settlement structure from figuring that out to create a path forward. And what I think that means is as they go on is talking about, possible employment of athletes, what they're going to have to do going forward. And I think, I've harped on this, but this isn't talking about separating from anything. It's more like they're just saying there's no more time to mess around, to play around with this. That lawsuit happens in January of 25. So they need a settlement this year. And later on in this, it even says that they're suggesting that the settlement could come as early as the spring. It's a single line. You'll see right there. The spring appears to be optimal window for settlement. Here. So I don't think this is about them trying to separate from everybody. I think this is just them saying enough of the BS. Look, we're in serious territory here. And we're going to step forward because we have the most to lose. They do. When it comes to House NCAA, that's not going to be equal damages. It's the NCAA plus the 5 power conferences. Those 2 conferences are probably going to end up having to pay more than everybody else. So I just think that they're just saying enough of the BS. We are going to lead this forward. And once we figure out, how to get this thing settled, everyone can take part in that. I don't think it's a breakaway. I don't think the Big 12 and the ACC need to have their own little thing. In the end, they'll probably benefit from whatever comes of this. I could be foolish for thinking that, but I don't think that this is something to be immediately worried about. We'll see how this plays out, what comes of it, but I just think this has to do with their legal problems right now.
It might not even come into fruition.
Yeah.
It's quite possible that this is, something that bubbles up now, but goes back down when other news comes around. Moen, you watch this a ton from the Big Ten's angle. When you're looking at not only this thing that happened was announced between the Big and between ESPN and Fox, that's a Freudian slip. ESPN and Fox working together to create this sort of Uber control mechanism. So on a television, you can go from one to the other. You don't have to switch to Amazon Prime, or you don't have to switch from ESPN Plus to Fox. That level of coordination is pretty detail oriented, isn't it? Once they break that barrier, isn't everything else just one more step?
Yeah, look, this is the best move they could make for themselves. And that's the important thing. It's for themselves. It's not for the benefit of the consumer.
Right.
They're not going to pass any savings along to you. This is just, they see the cables and it's dying days. And this is their life raft.
This is just more pay-per-view.
Yeah.
They're taking more college football off of free television and making you buy it.
100. Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious. Follow up on Scott's thought there. So you're thinking, Scott, that the games you typically see like on Fox, Big Fox, are going to actually get thrown on the app and no longer be available like on a normal Big Fox that you can get with an antenna on your TV?
No, I think that the big games you're going to see on the pay-per-view channels, and you're going to get the regional games on the Big Fox channel. I don't think you're going to get the national game for free anymore.
I don't agree with that. Why would they do that, Scott? Their biggest numbers they get are on the big noon.
It's all about the dollar these days.
These
contracts.
like the NFL. It's like the NFL going to a paid model to see regular games. It's like you would have to pay for Sunday ticket to watch any football teams. I just don't.
Well, if you watch the NFL, their games are set up mostly on a regional basis.
Right.
So you can watch the home team, and they'll give you one national game a week. And whichever one they want to give you is the one they're going to spoon feed you. The rest of them you got to have the ticket for. And I think that's exactly the way this is going to play out. You'll get one decent game, you'll get a regional game, but the real big powerhouse games, they're going to be on pay-per-view.
Wow. I mean, I could really see what you're talking about here. So what does that mean for like the likes of a YouTube TV right now that, has ESPN on its platform and other streamers that have ESPN on its platform? Are they going to remove that content? Do you think, Scott?
More than likely, if this deal goes through, and again, it's so premature to even talk about it. We just don't know where it's going to go. But if ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers put this mega deal together, it's going to eat up all of the little companies. I mean, remember years ago you had Jefferson Pilot and companies like that would bring you a game every week. You don't have that anymore because you've got ESPN and Fox controlling everything. Your local cable stations aren't going to be bringing you games on a regional basis.
Couldn't it be possible, though, that they're just going to do both while we're in this transitionary period? Like they'll still have everything that they're doing with cable the way they're doing because they have these deals going for a while. But they'll start to make it available to people because there's a lot of folks who have cut the cord and who just follow things on their phones or on their devices. And this would allow them to see everything that actually they can't see now.
I know a lot of people that have gotten rid of cable.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that have gotten rid of their television sets and they've replaced them with computer monitors, and they're streaming the games.
Mm-hmm. But they're doing it on other. I'm sorry, I was going to say they're doing it on other apps and whatnot.
Right,
this allows ESPN and Fox and these guys to contain that. Like, you could be right in the future.
Plus.
You could be right in the future, but I just think temporarily, like short to midterm, it's probably just going to be both. Like
short to midterm, the free TV is not going to go anywhere because they have contracts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as those contracts are getting ready to expire, you're going to see a push for pay-per-view, on demand, and other mechanisms that are going to require the consumer to pay to see a game.
Moen, can you throw a question out to everybody that's watching? Basically, are they willing to pay a direct-to-consumer model, or would they prefer what we have now, which is more a la carte? You buy a cable thing and it comes with certain, and you can add them or subtract them if you want it, because it sounds to me like one's an all-inclusive, the other one is sort of a hodgepodge with the digital, which is over the air, which is free, versus not always able to see games because they're locked behind some paywall. Is that something, a poll we could put out to everybody, and we could
let me log into the main account.
Okay, great.
There's something that I need to mention here. I was listening to some information last week, and it mentioned how CBS was like just absolutely financially struggling. We're talking about big CBS.
Yep.
That the only thing that anyone was ever watching was NFL.
Yep.
Like the SEC football, which is now gone, and like CBS is basically on the verge because they've just nuked losses after losses, just staying in business. And so like these other companies, I wonder like how big Fox is performing financially. So if the model needs to change for survival, I can see what Scott's talking about here. You have a regional game, then you make everybody else pay buku and stuff for the big time games, like, and kind of have an NFL Sunday ticket type of model and stuff, because you need to change your business model as a TV provider, because it's not working right now. It's not working right now. The streamers are losing money too. Everyone's losing money in this media business, like in this television business. It's not good right now. Netflix is the only one making money. And so this might be a profitable model.
WB is HBO. They're the last third of this contract. So we're going to be potentially seeing on HBO Max, or just Max, football games. They've already got the Barroom. Is it Barroom? No. Bleacher Report basketball games are on it right now if you have it. And it's just one more step. Bob Thompson told us that was going to become part of their business model. So you could end up having to buy this one client, or a subscription to this one client, that gives you access to all three. You get access to everything that's ESPN. You get access to everything that's HBO Max, Discovery, whatever that is. and then the third one is Fox, right? And that gives you all of those. Look at the ones we're not talking about: NBC and CBS, the ones that have been around the longest. Nobody's talking about. NBC is Notre Dame. I mean, this is huge. Notre Dame was not invited to the big SEC meetings. Are we starting to get an idea here that maybe Notre Dame doesn't have the pull it used to have?
Well, none of the others were invited either. I think it's just these two who have never worked together before and whoever had seriously bad relationships. This is kind of a statement of, this is so serious right now that we're working together. I don't know if it necessarily means NBC, Notre Dame's out. It's just, I think that might be looking a little too far in. I don't think they're trying to make a statement about Notre Dame. They're making a statement about themselves, if that makes sense.
I think Notre Dame is also pricing themselves out of the market. Their TV contract with NBC is humongous.
We still don't know what that number is, though.
No, but I heard NBC was ready to walk.
Yeah,
and they're having to do like a reality show on Peacock. That was probably part of it. So just to kind of tie it into Ryan Willie's super chat, that they probably don't know exactly who they're dealing with around them. I mean, he's talking about the ACC imploding. If that's happening, is Notre Dame going to be there? Like, how do you talk to someone when you don't know for sure what their situation is going to be? You don't know what's going to be up with the ACC. You don't know if the Big 12 is going to expand further. You don't know if Notre Dame is going to be, independent or not. So I personally think that it probably makes sense for those two conferences right now to just kind of look at each other and say, okay, what works for us? The rest of this if we get it figured out for us, everyone else can kind of just come work with us.
Everybody else
follow
fights
that model.
For the scraps. Just say
no,
it that way.
It's all the same.
Immaculate. It's not all the same.
It is, because they're talking about, I don't think people understand how big House NCAA destroys everybody.
No. We're not talking. Yeah, let's not get off track.
I know, but that's what their meeting is about. People are taking it as if it means all this other stuff, and it doesn't.
I'm not telling we're taking it anyway. I'm just saying right now we're not talking about House versus NCAA.
But that's what the meeting's about. It's not about NDs. That's what they're not talking to Notre Dame about it, because the amount that they're going to be on the hook for this is so much more than what Notre Dame would be. Notre Dame's not even really on the defense list on this. So they just don't really matter for this conversation.
Okay. Let's get some comments in here. Greg Flugar, peek around the corner, says, another school scared of my beloved Golden Gophers. You don't want to travel as a Miami alum and cheer up to Minnesota?
I've done that once before for a Super Bowl, and I really don't want to do that again. No offense to my friends in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, but I really have no desire to go there, except maybe to go to the Mall of the Americas.
Okay. Aren't malls dying?
Malls are dinosaurs, but they're the biggest dinosaur of them all.
I'm just teasing. Ryan Willie says 75-25 ACC implodes. Clemson is waiting for FSU. My opinion about that is I think Clemson's missing the boat and should be joining with FSU. Immaculate, what do you think about that one?
I think Clemson does not have any kind of a wink and a nod from anybody.
Right.
I think that they planned on coming out with FSU. They wanted to be part of that. And while FSU probably got word from some folks indirectly that you got a spot if you can get out, I don't think Clemson got that. That's what I think it is. Otherwise, I think they'd be right there with them, because they should be, because their entire value is based upon that football program,
right,
and it being good, and we are starting to see it slide. So it's a real tough time for them. If it slides much more, their value goes down. And that's most of these schools like Miami and Florida State. That's not necessarily the problem, because with Florida State, viewership is good. Miami has other aspects to it that the Big Ten would like. So it's a tough spot for Clemson.
Huge.
I don't think Clemson has the money to get out.
Yeah,
that might be the case too.
Really quick, I'm going to interject here. Ute just did a special on Clemson. Let me bring it up, Ute, and while you're talking about it, and kind of tell everybody what you think the value is for Clemson and what they should be doing.
Yeah, so we did a video here, an analysis on Clemson and its fit in the Big Ten Conference. And we stack ranked it in relation to existing Big Ten members. There's 18 members of the Big Ten. And if you throw Clemson in and you measure Clemson based on its brand value and also based on market size, academics, and some other factors. Another video, Bomber, go back. Then, yeah.
I was trying to bring it up so everybody can see.
Yeah, so then Clemson here stack ranks pretty high. They're actually, in between Oregon and Washington as far as valuation, at least, based on the value, based on the measures put in place and stuff in the analysis. So the assessment is Clemson is a fit for the Big Ten Conference. Really, the drawbacks, as Immaculate said, is like the market. But you could make the argument that Clemson's an hour away from Atlanta. You're technically maybe grabbing some of that Atlanta market. And the basketball is pretty average, but the football's been very good. Although you can make the argument the brand is declining, it's still strong. And that Clemson brand is worthy of Big Ten membership. I mean, Clemson's a very good school. They're a top 80 school nationwide. They're not a research juggernaut that the Big Ten loves, but still, I mean, when you add everything up here, Clemson does make sense for the Big Ten. 100%, guys. Clemson makes sense for the Big Ten. And it shocks me how everyone thinks that they're not going to get into the Big Ten. I think that they're a shoo-in for the Big Ten. In fact, I like Clemson so much that cheers to Clemson right now.
Wow.
Hey.
That's going all in right there. All right.
I'm just saying that, like, Miami. Okay, so Scott, I know, like, we talk a lot about realignment. We do a lot of analysis and everything. My thoughts still, that if there are moves, Florida State, maybe a Clemson Pride, then Miami could look at jumping to the Big Ten, and it's a fit. If Miami wants to get into the Big Ten, Miami would fit really well there with Florida State. But the thing is, Clemson brings a lot too. Clemson geographically makes sense as a travel partner in between the traditional Big Ten and where Florida is. So you've got that aspect. And again, like the outskirts, it reaches out and then touches the Atlanta market too. It's an hour away from Atlanta again. So I think that Clemson does bring enough to the table. I think that the threesome that would be going to the Big Ten would be Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. And then you're trying to pluck Notre Dame as a fourth. But I think Clemson really is way undervalued, like the most undervalued school out there as far as like realignment goes. And I think they're really quiet because they're working deals, guys. I think that they're going to get into the Big Ten.
All right, Scott, what do you think about that?
I'd rather see Miami go to the SEC.
Scott, you're shocking me today.
I'd rather see them stay in the South. I think that they're going to have a problem going to cold weather cities. They don't perform well in cold weather. I don't want to see them have to travel that far. The ACC isn't that long of a plane ride. If they move to the SEC, it's still not going to be that long. You're going to be in the southeast part of the United States. They're going to have great competition, great recruiting battles. There's a lot of money in the SEC, a lot of football fans. Attendance will be up. A lot of alumni from the other SEC schools are in Florida. I just think that that's a much better move for us.
That's really interesting. You've got jaws down because we definitely all thought if they were going to go someplace, it would be the Big Ten. So you got AAU membership last year, and I know that you're very tight on the private side with Penn State, right? And you've done stuff with Michigan. So I'm kind of surprised about that a little bit. Like you is shocked.
Yeah,
I just think from a pure football standpoint, and let's face it, football controls the rest of the sports.
Right.
I just think it's a better fit for Miami to go to the SEC than it does the Big Ten.
Very fair. Immaculate or Moan, you guys have questions about that?
Not shocking at all. I would think a lot of folks down there in the area would probably prefer Miami in the SEC just for viewing and for the team. I think Miami going to the Big Ten would be more of like a administration would want that. The school would want that. But for fans, I get it. Like it was a hard time for me to come to realization that, wow, FSU might actually go to the Big Ten. I thought for sure in the end that would even end up in the SEC. So
Right.
we'll see how it goes, but it's totally understandable.
Moen?
No, I get it. They want to duck Ohio State. Once the last national title game they were in, Ohio State wrecked them for the last 20 years.
Is that the reason, Scott?
Ohio State didn't wreck them. Terry Porter wrecked them.
Yeah, over pass interference.
All right.
Pass
All right.
interference 20 minutes after the game was over.
Yeah,
Let's get
Fighting words, love it.
let's get to these super chats. Bill G, one of our members, says, seems like NBC Universal and Paramount CBS and others may want to counter ESPN, Fox, Warner with their own JV. What does that mean?
joint venture.
Joint venture.
You guys are smarter than I am. Per the Wall Street Journal, the ESPN, Fox, Warner joint venture will have access to
Approximately.
55% of sports TV rights. So like we were talking about, that seems a little bit less than just one game a week. That's barely
that's
over
when
half.
we get into the antitrust violations and having a monopoly. You know, the FTC is going to look at this very stringently.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it here. I think that there is real like smoke here again for the future, guys. I really think that this is more than just nothing. This is not a nothing burger. Like this is some smoke signals to what we might see in the future and what might happen and what the strings in the background are going to be pulling here with two large conferences and what those look like in the future too. And as far as like the domination, I mean, as Scott was mentioning, I mean, if they go to a model where it's like Sunday Ticket, I mean, I'm signing up for that. You guys are all signing up for that. Everyone listening here signing up that we love college football. You know, we're going to watch the big games on an app.
We're degenerates, though. I'm not sure how many degenerates are out there.
I mean,
I watch the Hawaii games at 1:00 in the morning Eastern time, just so I can get football, and then I'll wake up at 6:00 and watch the replay.
Okay, I got you. I understand what you're saying, Ute. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no, like, and you're looking here. Okay, so they're going to own 55% of the rights and everything, and then you're looking at Paramount and CBS. What is CBS lost the SEC?
Right.
It has NFL, and Paramount is NBC, right? And that's
Paramount is CBS.
CBS. Okay, so then you've got NBC. So you got Notre Dame and some NFL games. Like it's not even close here on really.
What are you talking about? The Pac-2 is still needing some media coverage, and I know the Mountain West is looking for some.
You're so sick.
AAC.
Oh my gosh.
I could see, or even, shall I say, the ACC when they lose the big money brands. I don't think ESPN's re-upping at any decent value by 27 if Miami, Florida State, and Clemson are all gone. The ACC is going to be something weaker. What that looks like, we don't know.
Problem.
It sure does.
I mean, Scott, let's talk about that, because that's part of the reason why you're here is we don't understand the mentality that Miami fans have been showing, this ultra loyalty. First of all, I want you to look to your left and look at Ute while I'm saying this, because everything I'm saying to you now, I told Ute in April and May of last year. And that is, your conference is not loyal to you at all. And you're going to get sold down the river, and you better start planning for things to come over, water over the side, because your conference is taking on water big time. And that was the Pac-12. And he had to sit through it for almost a year and 15 months, I think. He had to sit through that.
Well, the Pac-12 just had a horrendous media rights contract.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the ACC that's because they lost their USC and UCLA. You guys haven't lost your USC and UCLA yet.
It was horrible before USC and UCLA left.
No, ESPN offered them the same money that they gave to the Big 12.
They didn't take it.
No, but that's a different choice. They had the opportunity. They didn't take it. That's a strategic misstep. But the money was there. I just don't know. I don't understand how the ACC can't look at what happened to the Pac-12 and be extremely concerned. Can't look at
the ACC definitely has to be concerned.
Okay.
They definitely have to be concerned, because if Florida State leaves, Clemson's going right behind them.
Right.
And then Miami's not too far away.
You hope.
But the question is where does Miami go?
That's a good question right there. Let's bring that up. So the SEC might be the desired place. Is that a viable place though? From anything that you've heard, or Scott? I mean, I don't know. There hasn't been any kind of smoke with Miami possibly jumping over to the SEC if the ACC folds. Is that a
Well,
viable landing spot?
there really hasn't been a lot of talk down here about Miami jumping ship.
Hmm.
But if they do jump ship, it's Big Ten or the SEC. And I'm hearing that from an administrative standpoint, they would like the Big Ten because of the academic standards and the academic integrity that the Big Ten brings to the table. But from a sports standpoint, you got to be crazy not to want to go to the SEC. It's more convenient. It's geographically desirable for the fans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Macular Moen, you guys have anything? We've talked about this a ton.
You guys know I stand kind of differently with you guys in terms of what I think is going on there. I tend to try and look at it and say these are institutions that are led by some very smart individuals who sometimes make bad decisions, as we have seen here recently. But I do think that some of these schools in the ACC, they can look around, they can see the situation. They know they're going to lose some schools, and they will have to have made some plans. And I've tried to touch upon what I think those plans are. And I've said, I think Miami is part of those plans. So when I hear Scott say, oh, I haven't heard anything, and we're staying in the ACC, it makes me think, well, maybe there's something to it. Now, it could also mean that they're just keeping it close to the chest and they're not telling anybody. That's also the case. And just kind of naturally, I think Miami would want to go to the Big Ten administratively. I think fans would want to go to the SEC, but I don't think the SEC is necessarily calling on that. I think from what we've heard and seen, there's some issues between Florida and Miami. I don't know what you know about that, Scott, but that might be a tough get. Like they're not actually looking to go again in Florida. And if they were, I think they'd probably take Florida State. So I think that's a tough spot for Miami to be in. Whereas in order for them to get in the SEC, it would be the SEC having to take 3 schools, or FSU leaves and then they're like, well, we want 2 schools so badly that we'll take you guys instead. Whereas I think the SEC is focused on North Carolina and Virginia.
Well, I think you're probably right about that. But the question becomes brass tacks. What happens when reality kicks in and they have to make a decision? Because ultimately it's going to be up to the school.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I think I was just going to say, I think we've circled around the ACC and Miami quite a bit tonight. We're going to be talking some Big 12 and maybe some bigger college football playoff questions now. So Scott, guess we're going to let you go. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where to find your stuff? And we thank you very much for being here tonight. We will do it again if you want to come back.
It's my pleasure. I'll come back anytime. You can read me at MikeFarrellSports.com. That's where I post my college football articles. We're the best in the business. Kyle Golick is the lead columnist. He's fantastic. And you can read my pro football on fansided.com.
Thank you so much for being here, Scott. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
We will have you back. When Miami's back in the news, you'll be here.
Okay, I look forward to talking to you again.
Okay. We'll see you later. Have a great night.
Take care, guys.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you, Scott.
I am absolutely floored.
Yeah,
I did not expect it to go that way, because I thought that Miami contingent would be very antsy to go into the Big Ten. So that was kind of a reality check there, which
a little bit,
no doubt.
I think. Go ahead, Immaculate.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he's dialed in there, at least in terms of a media person who's there locally reporting on them. So he would have had to have heard something if there was some talk going out to anyone. So there's either nothing or they're keeping that very tight-lipped.
Moen, what was your impression from all that?
They're scared of Ohio State.
Jeez, here we go. Everything's about Ohio State.
They broke them.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you again, Scott, for coming. Thanks for
Definitely.
being here. I want to encourage everybody to go find him on his articles online, and then I know he does some online stuff too with appearances. So I want you guys to track him down. He's a great guy, and we will have him back. Let's sort of reset. So today's been a big day. The last couple days have been big. We didn't have a team show yesterday, so we missed some news last night as well. I don't have anything really queued up. There's a couple articles. I have Immaculate's tweet about the Big Ten SEC partnership. We could talk about that, but I know you got some stuff on the top of your head you want to go over. So go ahead.
You know what? Most of those, we'll talk to Scott next time that he comes on, and I'll ask him some Big 12 questions here. I want an assessment of the Big 12. I know Mike Farrell does a lot of analysis on the Big 12 too, so we'll catch him next time.
Excellent. Do you want to do the super chat really quick? Ryan Willie for $5 says Miami is running scared of the big. Bucky beat Miami in the Orange Bowl a few years back.
Man, okay. You guys are really going after Miami.
I'm not.
Welcome to the
Willie
Big Ten.
I am.
Man, the Big Ten's brutal.
Ryan Willie is, not me. I appreciate your super chat. Thank you very much, Ryan.
People think that everyone in the SEC is rough, but the SEC, they all kind of defend each other. That's not the case in the Big Ten.
No.
It's not the case. They will rip you.
Wisconsin.
The moment you come in, they're going to rip you.
Can we just focus on the fact that when I asked the question to him, I was expecting a deep football answer, and he said, "I don't want to go play football in the cold."
Well, that's a really good point, though.
I mean, here we're thinking of these sophisticated answers, and he goes, "I don't want to go watch a game in winter in Michigan," you know. So
yeah, that has to come into consideration.
I think so.
Talking about wins and losses in the cold.
All right, so you came in kind of jazzed up with some of the news that happened today. You tell everybody why you think what happened with the media stuff today was such a big deal.
Yeah, I mean we've mentioned this before, but with the new merger, this new business venture, it's gonna have a new name. We don't know the name of it yet, but between what do we got? Fox, ABC, Disney, and then Warner Brothers too. So you're capturing 52 to 53% approximately of sports content. Crazy stuff. And Fox and ABC were enemies. Disney, Fox, they hated each other as the biggest rivalry in sports. And then all of a sudden they're going to be a business partner. That is shocking. That's shocking stuff. It's kind of weird, fishy, you could say, given the SEC and Big Ten strategic group alliance, if you want to call it, that was announced on Friday, 4 days ago. Then all of a sudden this drops. So there's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And man, everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. There's no conspiracy theory that is outside of the realm of possibility. Seemingly, it's just wild stuff right now. That's the assessment, though.
This is the list, and it's not even all inclusive because it doesn't have HBO Max and it doesn't have not Paramount. What's the other super digital I'm not thinking of? Hulu doesn't have Hulu on here. Doesn't have Disney, which they're broadcasting sports on Disney now. So ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC, ACC, ESPN News, Fox, ABC, FS1, FS2, the Big Ten Network, TNT, TBS, True TV, as well as ESPN Plus. How much? That's got to be 70 or 80% of sports coverage.
It's a ton. It's
55% of sports coverage.
Yeah, there was a statement about that we just had on.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that meant something else.
No,
that was talking all inclusive. I thought we were just talking about how many games that they would section off for the client itself. That's what I thought.
No. That's those clients provide 55% of the streaming or of the broadcast sports currently.
Okay, so everything else, the 45%, then goes to the CBS,
NBC, CBS,
all right.
all those other channels, CW.
Okay. I misunderstood that.
And there's a lot of new folks that are in the game now, so that probably makes this a little more possible now than it would have been in the past.
Very good. Summit Hawk,
give the man his squawk, please. We need that Jayhawk squawk.
Guy.
Summit Hawk, thank you so much. Giving 5 gifts. Moen, why don't you tell everybody about it?
Yes, Summit Hawk is as soon as I push the button,
Winner.
Because he has gifted 5 memberships to the chat. Nathan Campbell, Brandon Unruh, Kyle Visser, Larry M., Jeff Woodworth. Make sure you give a big shout out and a thanks to Summit Hawk for giving you those free memberships. I recommend right after the stream you go over and take a look at the Clemson video in the members only section. Great insight from Wild Ute on why he thinks Clemson is Big Ten bound.
You make your own decision after the analysis. That's
yeah, and we're going to work on. We've got UNC coming up later this week. We're going to put in the member section. Is that right?
That's right.
We're looking at later this week. We're going to do one on UNC to the Big Ten. So definitely check that out. That Clemson video will go public on Friday, guys.
Yep. And we'll replace it with the UNC video. It's going to be members only for 2 weeks. Yep.
Thank you so much, Summit Hawk. You've killed it for this channel.
Absolutely, you have been a great participant, and we really appreciate you being here. I just really quickly want to point out, if you're a member of Big 12 Mafia, the way you reach this, you go to the Big 12 Mafia page, you go to videos, and if you're a member, you can get into these members-only accounts. They're not OnlyFans accounts. Don't go there looking for that, but they are good for coverage on college sports and really what's going on in the mechanics and the money. And Big Ute, Wild Ute University is the one who does that, and we appreciate it. There's the Clemson one, comes off Friday. Wild Ute University does private equity assessment. That was huge, and that's open to the public. Why don't you tell everybody about that one, Ute?
Yeah, private equity video here. So there's a lot of questions about, like, what is private equity? How does it work? So I put that video together with Moan over the weekend, and it really lays out who the players are, JP Morgan and 6th Street, what they do, their roles in a likely private equity deal, how that would probably look. Nobody knows for certain, but how private equity deals work in the market typically, and the flow of money and how Florida State would basically repay the loan, the debt, the buy-in that they would get from the private equity firm. So take a look at the video. It will teach you a little bit more. It's got some visuals too, and hopefully give you a little bit more insights on how a deal could work if they decide to use private equity to buy out of the ACC and then get into the Big Ten to pay that thing back.
Fantastic. It's great work, Ute, and we really, really appreciate it. All right, let's talk. You said you want to talk Big 12. What are your thoughts about the conference we both belong to?
Yeah, I was actually wanting to get Scott's assessment on a couple of Big 12 things, so we can skip that.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood your message then.
So we'll get him next time.
My bad.
Ask those.
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to ask him about that. I apologize. I misunderstood your message to me. Sorry. Miscommunication. Doesn't happen very often. You should have stopped me. I would have been okay to be stopped if you would have said something. All right. Well, then let's get to some comment. Actually, Immaculate, why don't we jump to your where is your article here? ESPN. We'll jump back to this one where we were talking about the ESPN. There we go. So right here, you said all the so-called. Is this the right one? I want to make sure I'm doing the right one.
Yeah, that was the right one.
Okay.
It's just a little bit further down. But
Okay.
yeah, like it says right there. I mean, this is really laying out the case for people that ever since this came out, this combo of 2 conferences has come out. People have been very fearful of what it means, and a lot of theories have come out. And I'm not here to say that those theories aren't ever maybe going to come true in the future. But I'm just saying right now, the point of this, the focus of this, as is laid out by Thamel in this article, it's all about these lawsuits and things coming down the road and figuring out what they are going to do to deal with it and take care of it and not have it completely rip them apart. So the other issues of, do they form a league? Maybe those will get brought up at some point in time. But right now, the focus of this, and I believe it to be true, I don't think that they're just blowing smoke, is the House versus NCAA lawsuit. That could have upwards of $3, $4, $5 billion in damages if it goes to court. And quite frankly, those are just estimates. It could be higher than that. Like, there's not a whole lot to base this on. You're talking about every athlete in the past that could not exercise their NIL rights because of NCAA rules blocking them from doing so. And they're saying that these were natural rights that were stripped from them. These are their own, it's your own name, your own image, your own likeness. And this is your natural rights to make use of that as you see fit. And it was held from them. And then for them to now come forward and say, oh, it's okay, they're getting sued for all that back pay. So this is what they're trying to deal with. And they're saying, we're going to get ripped apart if we don't do this. Everyone's fighting over little stuff when this is the big thing. So I just want to say to folks, focus on this. And as Steve-O says, maybe everyone's going to have to drink when I say this, but we're all going to be pretty damn drunk by the end of that show because this is it, man. In terms of I'm considering, House versus NCA is the center story of what everything has to deal with. And that in my opinion, is what the big SEC advisory committee is working on, is how do we not get just obliterated by this?
So really quick, Jen Santee, Noel, has sent us another super chat, but I want to get to that in a second. 136 people watching this live. I know there's more on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you're following us all on Twitter, and then turn on your notifications so you know when we're doing events like this show. And yeah, we love to have all the new people that have been coming in. Make sure you subscribe, and then consider becoming a member of the Big 12 Mafia family. This is the way you do that.
Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the. Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the upper right corner. There are several membership levels to choose from.
Nice.
If I could point to a chat.
Please. Yeah, which one?
Scott White of Florida. He's near the bottom of the chat.
This
there.
one?
Yes, it's a great question. And I think you guys would probably like this one as well. If it's only for lawsuits, then why not align with ACC Big 12 too? Great question. Why not? Why is Big 12 not there in these meetings? Why is the ACC not? Why is Notre Dame not? Why are these other schools not? My guess, and that's really all it is my opinion, is because all of these voices have all been in the room right now. They're all together right now. They could deal with this, but they're all having problems doing that for whatever reason, whether it be different intentions, different perspectives, different situations, and it's not working and solutions are not happening. So these two conferences are just looking at each other and saying, all right, we're just going to have to get out in front of this and go. And I think they're going to blaze a trail that others can follow and deal with as well. I don't necessarily think this means that no one else has a solution. It's just they're just cutting down the number of voices in the room because too many voices in the room kind of seems to be the problem right now. So I know that probably doesn't make some folks feel better, and I'm love to hear what you guys have to say about that. I don't think it's meant to damage. It's just there's just not time to fool around.
The beauty about this show is that we've got two Big 12 folks and two Big 10 folks that have different views from different angles, Immaculate. And I completely understand what you're saying from your point of view. There's 10 people in the room right now in the committee, right down in Arizona, right? There's 10 commissioners in the room. So you could easily have 4 to make decisions based on the new governance and new changes, tectonic changes in college football. But this is definitely a power move by the 2 to take 20%, not 40%, of all of the conferences out there to make those decisions. So it's basically, it feels on the other end of it like you're getting completely left behind and that you're basically not being considered as anything close to being an equal in this at all. And that you're going to have to take whatever the Big 10 throws at you or the SEC throws at you. And you're not going to be able to be a decision maker in the room.
If I may,
that's the whole thought. Like, you can't even make an argument on the decisions about probably the governance and everything else of college football because you're not even in the room to talk about it. You weren't invited. That's
Can I address that?
Sure.
It's just an advisory committee. Like, they don't actually make any decisions. They are there to talk and try and come up with something, and then they advise the Big 10 and SEC schools. And then those guys are going to have to go into the room with everyone else and have that conversation you're talking about. So, like, the Big 12 and the ACC could set up an advisory committee like that, and they could brainstorm if they really want to. I mean, I think that these conversations are going to happen. Personally, I think this was just put out in public to scare everyone into this is how serious we think this situation is. But that advisory committee is not making any rules. That has to go through the conferences, and then that has to go into the voting process. I think what they're kind of alluding to is like they need to figure out a whole new government system as well, like what works. So I think time will prove it out. And until then, I get the fear and I get the worry and I get the perception that maybe you're right too on that. You could be, and I could be wrong. It's just all I'm trying to say is let's not like run for the hills just yet. I think let's just see how this works out. This just came out, and this is what they're saying. What it is could be not all true, but that's just my thought on it. Is that they're worried about that upcoming lawsuit. That's what's pushing this.
That was a great question. Thanks for giving it to us. It comes
Yeah,
from the Ute, so that's
nailed
okay. We'll take it. It's fine. Sorry, Jen. I just wanted to make sure we got your super chat in here completely. $2. Thank you so much. You're a member of the channel. We appreciate that. And you're a fantastic creator. You and George are doing great things with Renegade Report, and we want to keep doing stuff with you. She says, love you guys. Awesome show as usual, and gives us a smiley face. So thank you, Jen. Tomorrow is Vanderpump Rules Season 11, Episode 2. I can't wait. All right. All right. Let's see here. Moen, did you want to say anything? You've been really quiet tonight. A lot of stuff going on. Anything you want to add to what Immaculate's trying to communicate to us, Big 12 dummies?
Well, I mean, we're not getting married. It's just a friends with benefit arrangement right now,
Right.
guys. I mean,
Right.
we haven't put a ring on it.
And friends is a bit strong.
Benefits is more important.
Benefits.
Okay. All right. Thank you. To deep thoughts from Moen in the dark.
So Moen, I've got to ask this. So if the SEC is a friend with benefit, what is the Big 12 to the Big 10?
Associate.
Associate friend with benefit?
Associate. I didn't say friend. I said
Little-
associate.
Little brother.
Okay.
Come
Associate
on.
with
We
benefit.
got you. Come on. I mean, the Big 12's got ESPN and Fox deals. They'll be just fine. Like Yormark's probably sitting back with a cigar going, yeah, that's fine. Let them work. We got this. We're good. I honestly, that's how I feel about the Big 12. Like they could just kind of sit back and laugh at the Big 10 and the SEC worrying about having to pay double, triple, quadruple what the Big 12 will have to pay when House comes down. Like that's
Well, we don't know that though. We don't know that.
But keep in
we don't
mind
know
that
that's
the Big 12 has got stronger every time the Big 10 has made a move, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I think the Big 12 is stronger now than it was, say, last June.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So associate.
Okay, let's get to some of these comments from earlier in the show. Joe Z says, fans don't even like driving 20 minutes from Coral Gables. That's funny to me. His comment about Miami didn't want to travel up north. I will never unhear that. Do you guys want to make a joke about that like I did?
I don't want to go to the cold weather.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't even. That took my breath away when I heard that.
That's got to be like the Miami fan sentiment, though, right?
Well, I tell you what,
it's not like
the one time they
it is
came
what it
west,
is.
the one time they came west, BYU schooled them in Provo. So I know for a fact they don't want to make those trips very often.
Yeah, where's
The joke
Rocket
about
Rant? We
that
got to get
is-
his assessment on this thing.
The funny part about that joke is the stadium is more than 20 minutes away. It's 45 minutes away. That's why everyone
that's
goes to the
true.
stadium.
Yeah, we didn't have time to really dive into
That's
that.
his
detail.
actual joke. He's saying that
Yeah.
they don't even like to drive to their own stadium, let alone come all the way up north for a game.
I think that's funny. College Football Playoff Edits, another member, says Fox, CBS, NBC want FSU and Clemson. Big presidents want Notre Dame and Miami. I don't believe they will take all four. So what are we thinking here, guys?
I'm thinking they take all four, 100%. There it is, guys. I'm
22
laying it down.
teams?
Those four right there.
22 teams.
22 teams with those four.
Okay.
100%. That's where I'm at. 100%.
Okay. All right. Immaculate.
Big 10 goes.
I actually don't disagree that they would do that if Notre Dame was ready to go. If Notre Dame's ready to go, I can't say that the Big Ten would not do that. There's enough value there in schooling and scholastics and money. I still think that maybe Clemson's the one outside on that, but the amount of value that's there, that might be the case. I don't like Florida State and Clemson as a Florida State +1 move. But in terms of a 4-school move, it actually has a little more viability.
Moen?
Yeah, I think he's saying in this thing that the networks want these two, the big presidents want the other two. Listen, if you're going to 22 right now, you're going to 24 right now. I don't think you stop at 22. I think you push to get to 24 somehow.
Okay.
I don't think they get there. I think they get to 20 right now. I think they take Florida State and Miami. And if the Miami fans don't want to travel, that's fine. They don't have to travel. I mean, Big Ten fans will take up those seats, no problem.
Another way to look at that would be pick one from each column, and that's what you're going to get. Like it's one is the network pick and one is the president's pick.
Yeah.
Like one, if you're only going to get 2 schools, you're taking one from each column. One president's pick, one network pick. So that would make the Florida State Clemson one tough. If you're taking all 4, then it's 2 and 2. It's fine.
I know you guys kind of poo-pooed it when I brought it up. I still don't think it was just an accident that Notre Dame wasn't in the room. If Jack Swarbrick is still around, he would have been in the room with those guys.
He hasn't left yet.
That was no accident. You're right. It was intentional.
He Notre Dame not being in the room, everybody's just sort of, oh, don't worry about it. Notre Dame will be okay. I don't think so. I think the tide has changed, and they're 45 years since their last championship, and everybody's looking around the room, and they're like, I have to play Ohio State and Michigan and USC and Oregon every year. They get to play, not to poo-poo some of these programs, but Air Force, Navy, and Bowling Green. And they want them to have as much power and more money than any of the Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama. I don't buy it. I think Notre Dame's in real trouble.
I think you're right, Bomber. And Scott just said it too when he was on before, that they're not going to warrant the money they're asking for, right? And they're going to try to get in the future. Notre Dame's in massive trouble, and they're going to have to jump over the big. And what's good, you just put the leverage on them. You had 3 schools. You had FSU, Clemson, and Miami. You put the leverage on them now that you've partnered up, and like there's all this stuff going on in the background with the TV networks. Just more pressure. They're going to break, and so you'll get these 4. I think you invite those 3 first, then Notre Dame's going to come along.
I think it's 2 to start off with, but the more I think about this, because of the this alignment with these media companies now, I think the future is now. And we are going to see a lot more movement than we even guessed even last year in the next 18 months. Like tectonic plate type movement that will probably put us into a position that won't change for decades. I could see 22, and then I could see him taking Kansas and Texas Tech or TCU.
They're going to get to a point where they're going to want to be done with all of
Texas
this.
A&M, and then Texas A&M
for us.
Is a good one.
This isn't fun for the administrators to deal with. So
they're
going to want to get to the point and just kind of be done.
I think you want to put that tweet or that message out on Twitter, College Football Playoff Edits. Put it out on Twitter and mark it and say, here's my prediction, and see how close you get in a year.
Lay it down.
Might as well put it out to the world. You've already told us. Might as well put it out on Twitter so everybody else know. I think that's a great analysis. You guys buttonholed it. And if I will also say this, though, if the Big Ten doesn't invite Clemson, they are not going to the SEC.
I agree with that. They're not going to the SEC.
No, it's the Big Ten or Big 12. All right, let's get to some more comments here.
Hey, you know what? Here's another throwdown here. So Virginia's not going to the Big Ten either.
Yeah, I would agree with that also.
Virginia's not going to the Big Ten. Clemson's not going to the SEC. There's no fits there. And like in Big Ten already owns that market, the DC market, that you get along with UVA.
Yeah.
With Maryland.
I agree. I don't think the Big Ten wants Virginia. The only reason why I would put them in as going to the Big Ten is if North Carolina is like, we're only coming if you bring Virginia with us. But on their own, I totally 100% agree with you.
Actually, yeah. So what we're saying, if we go by what our previous conversation is, UNC's not going to the Big Ten either.
Probably not, no.
Okay.
If USC goes where they want, I think that they're valuable and they can basically choose either one. But I just see them in the SEC more than the Big Ten, but the Big Ten would take them.
Sergeant Pickles, one of our valued members, being here. Thank you so much, Pickles. He says Miami is not like Notre Dame, who has an open invite to the big. That is always valid. Act quickly or be left behind. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I don't know why you would delay. He was so relaxed. Scott was so relaxed. Like, I got nothing to worry about.
Well, if I lived in Miami, I'd be
Southern
relaxed
Florida,
too.
man.
That
This
has
is
to
like-
come from somewhere.
It's like worst case
Yeah.
scenario. Oh well, I'll just go hang out at the beach.
He couldn't believe we were even asking the question. Like that's why I was like, I almost fell off my chair.
It was a little bit,
Oh.
yeah. We need to have him back so we can put context around. Him coming on tonight was planned last week. He had no idea we were going to be talking about the media contracts and all these other things. So he gave us an hour. He probably could have given us 5. But we'll have him back and we'll do more of those questions.
I actually think that's most fans, though, brother. Like that's like he wanted to talk about like the quarterbacks and who's going to the
Right.
pros. Like that to most fans, they're not even paying attention to realignment. Like,
Yeah.
what? No, we love the ACC. The ACC's not going anywhere. There's a gore, don't you know, dummy? Like that's it. Like
That
they
blows
hear
me
these
away.
few
Right.
things, and that's it. And what kind of rubbish are you talking about here?
He's like, what's wrong with these guys?
Yeah,
I tried laying it out for him. I tried doing a history lesson. I tried saying,
Oh my
look at
gosh.
Ute and see his
That's-
misery.
that's been my pain for years.
There was none of
Like,
that. There
what
was none of that. Yeah,
crazy
whatever.
stuff are you talking about?
And, it's the same thing that we got from Utah fans last November. It was like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh,
Oh, don't you worry about that.
Well, I'll say one thing to that is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech.
All right, let's see here. Jamie Thornton says Miami is interesting. It's kind of its own market. SEC really wants to expand its footprint as they feel this next expansion is probably its last. So that, and he did say he thought Miami would more than likely go to the SEC because travel, I guess. You guys want to comment on this comment from Jamie?
she's not wrong. South Florida should probably be its own state. So I mean, and the difference, the travel between like Miami and Florida State's what? How many hours? Like 4, 7? Like it's a long ways. I mean, it's a different area of the country than Upper Florida. I mean, Southern Florida. You could say that you are adding another state if you add in Miami.
Anybody else?
What do you think about that, Mon?
Yeah, that's true. They used to call it the recruiting. It used to be Miami State. It was a completely different recruiting area that you wanted to get into from Central and Northern Florida. So that's pretty accurate. But again, I don't see the SEC wanting Miami. I think that's a pipe dream. I think Florida would step in and say, "F that."
Yeah.
And the answer is no. I think Florida might relent on Florida State a little bit. They would not relent on putting Miami into their conference.
That's
I
what
agree
thought.
with Moan. I don't think there's any real shot that Miami gets in. I think that Florida's tentacles reach pretty far in that state, the Florida Gators and stuff. So I'm wondering what kind of upside. I know you're adding the Miami market, but you have it already.
Yeah.
Portion of it with the Gators,
Yeah.
and so there could be some redundancy there, and like just not enough upside. You're not getting into a new market. Yeah, it's kind of Big Ten or bust for Miami, I think.
Let's see here. Another question here from Steve-O. Moen, are you taking a drink every time Immaculate says House versus NCAA?
No, because I'd be dead.
Because you'll be. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh
It's
no,
called
that's bad
alcohol
news.
poisoning.
Oh my
That is
gosh.
bad news.
Look, I'm just trying to keep the train on the tracks. You guys try to take me on these side jaunts. It's impossible for me to drive
House
straight.
versus
It's impossible.
Steve-O.
It's like
People
keeping
love
you,
the
it's like
side
hunting
trips.
cats in this room.
It's a field trip. We're taking the scenic way. We're
Yeah,
gonna get there. We just
I'm an
wanna
A
go
to
the
B
scenic
guy.
way.
I just got to tell you, I've never seen any site that's more than a mile off the freeway. So I don't know what you're talking about. Daniel Gygax, Bomber, what's Twitter? Hey, look, that's how I communicate to the rest of you. I don't even know another way to do it. Instagram and all these others. If you're not on Twitter, I'm sorry. You're missing all my stupid posts, but I
I
don't know.
think
What
he's
think
trying to
he's-
say you're supposed to call it X.
X.
I,
It's now X.
I didn't get the joke, but I still don't understand it.
Yeah, you
All
can.
right. Yeah, X. Sorry, Daniel. I didn't get the joke. I apologize. Mr. Monkey says strong. Let's see, stronger, but the gap widens. What's he talking about there?
The Big 12 getting stronger from the Big 10's moves, but the gap widens. I
Yeah.
just want to say, if we're ever on a road trip and there's like the world's largest ball of yarn, by God, we're going off the road to see that ball of yarn.
Okay, that's why I fly anywhere we go. That's all I'm saying.
But we'll land the plane and go see that ball of yarn.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see here. Summit Hawk, $5 super chat. Likely not happening, but if FSU Notre Dame happens, what are all the other conferences' next additions and moves? It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
That
So
they're
it's a
basically
summit.
just
Go ahead.
sighing and saying, "Okay, we lose." Because if they were to get Florida State Notre Dame, it's over. That's Big Ten's at 20 and they're done, and they're not going to push anything else.
What do you think, Moan?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. You take a big old drink,
So
you cheer to the guns, and walk away. If they get Florida State, Notre Dame, they're the last two largest brands remaining. At that point, there is nothing that anybody can do to counter it.
Yeah, I agree.
that's
You?
Yeah, I think that the Big Ten becomes super strong, right? A hero type strong and everything in that scenario. And I think the Big 12 would have a shot at Clemson and Miami in that world because of the ACC still going to crumble up.
Yeah.
I wish that would happen. I think that's kind of wishful thinking, though. But I'd love to see it.
like even on top of that, Florida State and Notre Dame are the type of values that you pair something with them in order to get more from the networks. But if you throw those two together, like your ability to get other schools in the future is very much minimized. Because like with Florida State, you could throw Miami and Georgia Tech, or someone else with them, and you can get that by ESPN or Fox and whatnot. Notre Dame, same thing. You might throw in a Miami with them or another school, and the value's still there. But if you bring those two in together, you have pretty much slammed the door on a lot of value in the future, unless it's Moen's Texas A&M or something like that.
Let's talk about perception, which we know is worth a lot in today's culture. Everybody's short attention span. They see headlines. They rarely read deeply into details on articles. And right now, today, CBS and NBC lost this 24 hours in the media cycle. ESPN and Fox basically came in and said, everybody else, you're also rants. It's us, and then all you little plebeians down underneath us. What is going on at CBS and NBC right now? Are they going to try to counter, or is this something they just say, let's see what we can do to work along with them?
Well, I mean, NBC's sitting pretty with Peacock. Peacock has been doing wonderfully well. It's good quality. They had huge numbers with the NFL. They had good numbers with both Notre Dame and Big Ten games. I think that their success with Peacock over the past year is what maybe pushed this over the line. This might have been like so close for so long with these three entities trying to figure out who's going to get what, who's going to get paid what. But I think NBC and Peacock and their success probably pushed us over the finish line. So I think the others will be fine. Maybe we'll see an NBC-CBS duo. Who knows?
Does the Big Ten have any games on NBC right now? Or
Yes.
Peacock?
Yes.
Like, what type of distribution are we talking about? Like, what's the game count per week?
I think it's 8 games on Peacock every year.
Is there anything
forward.
on Big NBC, Big Ten wise?
Yeah, 8 p.m. every Saturday, Big Ten Saturday night.
Okay.
That's new, by the way. That just came.
That
with the
started
new
this
media
year.
deal. Yeah.
Okay. So you do have some. I mean, the NBC's protected a little bit with that Big Ten content. CBS is in trouble, guys. I've told you. I mentioned that before. Their financials suck right now. They're nuking money. The only thing that's actually semi bringing people to CBS is the NFL. They just lost the SEC. They're in big trouble. They can't afford anything. I would sell all the stock on CBS.
I don't think you're wrong. I think that their CBS Sports Network that they bought into, it was something else they bought. That's been terrible. That's just been sitting there basically unused. Like, I don't know what's going on with CBS. It just kind of seems like they're aging and not adapting at all.
Which is funny because they built Paramount Network specifically to counter everything you just described. Immaculate.
And it's
They've been building that.
nice.
They're doing the UEFA Champions League, which is huge international, but in the United States, very small distribution, and their exposure now in football. I mean, what are they? They're the Mountain West, right?
Yeah.
And then is it Sun Belt? I know there's one other that they're with in college.
That might be it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
that's
can't remember
that's
the
where I
other one.
think they need to go. I think they need to look at some of the stuff that they can get
Right.
for low cost, and just
Yeah,
and,
that
and,
would
and
make
play
sense.
some of that. And it's not going to be as big in numbers wise, but it doesn't matter if your cost is low if you make less money. But it really comes down to what's your profit. So I think
Do
some
they
of those.
even need football? Is a better question. They have basketball.
Oh, you got to do football. I mean, at that time of the year, there's because the NFL has taken so much away from them and just continues to put more and more on the NFL network. They're all going into college football because of the NFL has taken content from them. So yeah, I
Interesting.
do think that they do need to. It's just, I mean, I have both Paramount and Peacock, and Peacock is so much better. Like just
Yes.
operation wise, it works so much better.
I'll add to that though that it didn't used to be. 2 years ago when it first came out, it
Mhm.
was super slow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you'll have
You'd
that. But,
wait
I mean,
10 minutes between clicks.
they've
So
been very proactive at building up Peacock.
They
whereas
have.
CBS is just
they have.
they
Yeah.
get something, they build something, then they just sit on it. Like the CBS Sports Network, they did nothing with this garbage. Paramount Plus could have been great, but they just didn't do anything with it. So they don't seem very proactive.
Do you want to add anything to that?
I think CBS is the only asset that they have that's worth anything right now is the NFL. Everything else is losing money, and frankly, they spend so much on the NFL contract that they're losing money on that too. But there's like some ancillary benefits down the line. So CBS is a company that is in massive financial trouble. I would imagine that NBC is in a similar position and stuff. And you guys, they spend too much on sports.
Yep.
Everyone spent too much on sports. We're talking about like this, cascading sports media rights landscape. It's because they spent too much on the NFL and college football. The Big Ten, they spent too much on the Big Ten.
Yep.
And you're trying to recoup some of that, but I'm not sure we're ever going to see bigger contracts.
We aren't.
It's not financially feasible for these companies. I mean, CBS might go bankrupt. Like they really might during this NFL contract.
Do you have
because they
enough
spent so
data
much-
to do a short on CBS? You and I
we
could
could
do
dig
a
something. Yeah,
short.
we could dig something up on CBS, but like they're really out of the college football game now. And like
No,
they're-
they've got the Big Ten. every
CBS has the
Saturday.
Big Ten.
Yeah, they've got a 3:30
they got-
package.
They're
They
switching
got-
from SEC to Big Ten next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
It's
do a
one
short
game. It's one game a week, right?
Yeah, it's not enough. Like
They've also
only-
got a basketball package as well.
But that's it. I mean, they have one game, and then
They just get the
Mountain
one
West.
football game. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are partnered, but it's very, very junior, right? It's not. I understand. what
No,
you're
some
saying.
weeks I think they'll get one. I think they rotate
Okay.
who gets 1, 2, and 3. That's one of the
okay.
reasons they pushed to have Washington and Oregon in, is to get more competitive matchups. This way, there's better 1, 2, and 3
Okay.
matchups each week.
Okay. Well,
CBS. Everybody spent too much on sports media rights.
yeah. I agree with
Everyone
that.
did. They're finding that out right now. The budgets are not balancing right now. They're losing money. I don't know if we ever see the amount of dollars we're talking about.
Right. I would counter that with the fact that WWE just signed a massive $1 billion deal with Netflix.
Netflix is its own beast, though. Netflix is making money.
I know, but that's just saying that there's partners out there that will spend massive amounts of money to obtain content. So once Amazon, Apple, some of these other streamers get into the market and we get more towards a streaming only society, who's to say they won't overpay for a Big Ten or an SEC or a ACC or a Big 12?
Well, what just happened today just eliminates that. There is one streamer right now, and that's going to be
No.
this new company that's just formed right here with all the sports media content. That just
Is
eliminated
Amazon
everything else.
involved in that?
No, but I mean, what's Amazon going to do? Bring soccer to the table? Like, I mean,
Well, so I'm saying they could offer a $1 billion huge deal to the Big Ten next time the media deal comes up, and sign them away for a huge amount of money. It's not like there's not other people out there that will be bidding. Yes, this is a conglomeration of television bidders, but you've still got Apple, You've still got Amazon. You've still got other streamers. YouTube, Alphabet. I mean, they bought the NFL Sunday Ticket package for YouTube TV. Who's to say they wouldn't go out there and overspend? Let's be honest. They would overspend on content right now. They might overspend on it. I don't think the contracts are going down. I think they're still going to go up.
We will see about that. I mean, when I hear overspending on a streamer, I think back to my experience with the Pac-12 and how that was the thing that was supposed to happen that blew up the conference. I mean, that just didn't happen. They're too business savvy.
But there's two different things. You were talking about the Pac-12 that had lost USC, UCLA versus the Big Ten with all its brands versus the SEC with all its brands, even versus the Big 12 now with all its brands.
Here's a question. Daniel Gygax, $1.99. Thank you so much, Daniel. Who now has the After Dark window? ACC, Big 12, Big 10. Big 10 and Big 12 have it. That late window. I don't think anybody's calling it After Dark.
Right. I don't think the Big Ten's going to play any 10 o'clock games, so I don't think they're going to play any games that start at 10.
You do have schools on that late window. You could.
They could.
I think it's mostly going to be Mountain West and Big 12.
Yeah, and the ACC only has 2 schools out west right now, and that's not enough to build a whole.
Yeah,
they're
not to
show
break into the
They're not going
time
to show
zone.
Stanford in California like every week.
Could you imagine Stanford at 10 o'clock Eastern? Like 5 people would be watching that game.
Imagine California Stadium at that time of night.
That would be so bad. The ACC is so screwed. I don't even know. All right, I got to go in a few minutes, so I'm going to get a few more questions in here, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to finish. Let's see here. Conundrum says CBS will air Indiana versus Minnesota. That'll be the gist of their coverage.
It
Just
might
gonna save the network.
They'll be able to sell advertising rates much more than they could on previous ones. That's the reason they wanted the Big Ten, is the advertising rates.
Right. I'm sure that's true. Summit Hawk says, I think the Big 12 should be the aggressor and try to add 4 to 6 ACC schools the same week FSU announces. Well, as we know, Summit, the league can't invite anybody until they've been approached by a school. So I'm sure they'd love to. And Brett Yormark's probably got a bunch of guys on speed dial, but there's not much he can do until something breaks.
I would hope that Yormark is ready to pull the trigger immediately. I would hope, and I would imagine that he is. He's a great leader. He's going to make that happen. If there is a breakaway, then you know that the Big 12 is going to eat. Unfortunately, the Big 12 is going to eat in third place, right? Not going to be the first or second, but there's still going to be really quality food out there, good schools to eat up. And the Big 12, frankly, needs to do it for its own survival. If the Big 12 bomber, Immaculate Moan, if the Big 12 want to be included in the room, which they're not right now in, they need to eat up the ACC.
Yep.
I'd say they're still in the room. They're just not in that room. But no, you're right. I think that Yormark's going to sit back and watch what gets stirred up. And, when those particular pieces then become available, they'll have those conversations and some movement will be made. Both ESPN and Fox chose the Big 12. That is the chosen location to, I don't know how to put this, people don't want to take this the wrong way, but to have particular brands fall to. Like if something like this happens, that's where your fallback to. Both ESPN and Fox have kind of chosen it as that, it seems. They wrote that contract with plenty of writing in there about future editions and the value that they could have and who could be part of that and who can't. So that's what this was made for. That's what they decided. Okay, we're shifting. We're going to support the Big 12. You're going to get this contract, but these are the schools you can bring in and not bring in. Like it had to do with the AAC schools that they brought in. They kind of shut that door and said, no, we'll pay you this, but you're going to be there to take in the schools that we need to bring over to you. And that's why I say the Big 12 is probably just sitting pretty right now. Like, something's going to come to you once this all starts to happen. So I just wouldn't be that worried about it. So 4 to 6, maybe.
Moen?
I like the idea of the room. I just
Oh, real. Yeah.
the way you describe it, it makes it sound like it's the end of Godfather when they close the door on K, where it's just the slow
Leave.
tracking shot.
It
where
is
it's like,
too.
You can ask me
It's-
about
it's
my
like-
business. No, and then he just shuts the door on her. As
I
The Big
think
12
that
can't be kissed the hand all the time here. You know?
I think that is real though. It's fun to talk about and funny and everything else,
Mm.
but I am on high alert just like you is. I don't think it's an accident that Notre Dame was included. I don't think it's an accident ACC and the Big 12 weren't included. So none of these things are accidents. They're on purpose. They don't happen just to fall that way that day. And people are making conscious decisions about what to do with their time, and not spending it with Brett Yormark and the Big 12 hurts the Big 12. I don't think there's a way to hide that anymore. Marcus Williams, $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Marcus. With Fox and ESPN working together. Sorry. With Fox and ESPN working together and the Big and SEC having an advisory group, I think they look the other way and allow each other to pick the ACC apart. That actually could happen. I could see
that makes sense.
We've had the discussion that all of
Yeah.
a sudden now the whole idea that ESPN wouldn't want to see certain brands go to a Fox conference like the Big Ten,
Right.
it's been mitigated to a degree.
Yeah.
Whatever content is coming in there from Fox and then comes to this joint venture, and then all the money that's made from that's being split up equally. So ESPN's kind of making money off of it either way. It's still not like 100% like, oh, it's just the same thing. But I think it's enough to where, yeah, that's fine. If they go that way, they go that way. Because it's all getting put in the same pot anyways.
It's all horse trading here. So you get the Knowles here, then all of a sudden, ESPN gets a couple more ownership percentages, and the new company.
It's just like The Godfather.
business.
Dude,
guys
this
are-
stuff is like the Godfather, man.
Here's a visual that I
The
think is really
mafia.
easy. I'm a visual guy. You have 0 to 100, right? It's a scale. And the game you're playing zero sum.
Yeah.
What that means is the less somebody else has is the more that you can take. So the Big 12 is in everything to their advantage to eat away at the ACC, because that means they get more. Does more go to the Big 10? Yes. Does more go to the SEC? Yes. But the Big 12 also grows in proportion. So I think you have to do everything you can to advocate to win those things over.
I don't disagree, but I think you have to let the SEC and the Big Ten slaughter the cow for you.
Well, of course, yeah, no,
and then you guys can have the
first.
sausage.
Right, thank you.
You know?
Yeah, we know that.
It's a good sausage. It's really good sausage.
Yeah,
We
it's
get it.
cow sausage. It's excellent.
All right, this is for you, Ryan Willie, $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Ryan. This is your
Thanks,
second
Ryan.
or third one tonight.
It's his third.
Third, we appreciate it very much. Amazon bought Bally Sports from Diamond Sports. I'll have to watch the Brewers and Ducks on streaming, even though I don't like it. Streaming is here to stay. Amen to that.
Yeah, streaming's not going anywhere. No way. And I'm serious. Scott was onto some guys. I know that was kind of a bizarre idea, but that Sunday ticket model for premium college football,
Right.
you're sacrificing viewership numbers, but you're maximizing the network profitability.
Right.
You better believe that has to be on their minds, and that might be part of the strategy. That's what Ryan's saying here. Like to get his Brewers and Bucks, he's paying money, and so streamers aren't going anywhere. It's true, and that is the way of the future. And if you're watching college football games with an antenna, I'm sorry guys, but that's going to be fading probably here pretty soon. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he's saying though, Amazon is getting in. Everyone is getting into the game. There's a lot more players now. So what this looks like, it's a major monopoly that's being formed by these companies, as was pointed out, by it only being 55%. It's not so much anymore. It's a majority, and as he's saying, it's more like an oligopoly. But there are so many more players coming in this. We're seeing that enemies become friends.
Moen, sorry. I was
Oligopoly is your SAT word.
Oligopoly. That is awesome.
Doug Rohan better not be watching this, because he will hold you to account if you made up a word tonight.
That's a
Nope,
fantastic
that's a real word.
That's a real
Oligopoly?
word.
Yep.
It's all Ogalopoly.
Oligopoly.
Oligopoly. Yep. Instead of a monopoly of one, it's like 3 or 4 were controlling it
Okay,
together. that
send
have
me
an
the
oligopoly.
spelling of that word, and I'm going to look it up.
Think
I
on
believe
Yeah,
that.
Immaculate's
I'll-
right about this
DM me
oligopoly.
the name. Just
Yeah,
do
I'll
it really
type it out.
quick.
I'm going to type it on chat right now. I got it.
And I'm gonna go to Webster's and look it up because
Pull a poll
oligopoly.
up, hey, is this a word or not?
I just wrote it in chat.
Okay.
Yes.
It like open
Oligopoly.
chat. Hey, hang on. It might be the way that he's saying it versus I'm thinking he's spelling it. Oligopoly. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. I
Yep, see,
don't.
Bill G agrees, and he's a
Okay,
smart
well,
guy.
I trust all of
You've
you.
heard of
guys
the
with
Russian
what you
oligarchs,
do.
though, like the rich
Oli-
Russians, right?
Oligarchs.
Oligarch. I can't even say
Monopoly?
it. Gee.
I don't know. All right, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at Scrabble, but that's a new word for me. I'm going to leave you guys with this since I got to go. Morris Simmons says, I think a message is being sent to Notre Dame by the Big Ten and the SEC. I will just tip my hat and say, yes, that is true in my opinion. And the bus is filling up. So I think they are saying it's time to get on. I want to hear what you guys say, and then I'm going to get out of here.
I think to a
Dame
degree,
is
yes.
overrated and overvalued. That's what I'm going to say about it. I've said this many times before. I just cannot believe that people are so obsessed with Notre Dame. It makes no sense to me. They're not even the most valuable. If they got in the Big Ten, they're not even near Ohio State or Michigan. I mean, they're at USC level. Like, what's the obsession with Notre Dame? I don't get it. Like, they're not like the most valuable team out there. Bama's more valuable. There's 5-7 teams more valuable in college sports. Like, so.
When it comes to those lawsuits, Notre Dame is really not that big of a deal. The Big 12 is a much bigger deal than Notre Dame. Big 12 not being in the room, so to speak, is a bigger deal than Notre Dame not being there. But do I think that Notre Dame should look at this and say, maybe have a little worry, be like, okay, they're kind of moving on without us. And as some have said, the SEC kind of has been a protector of Notre Dame in terms of the political side of the CFP and whatnot. Well, that could be ending. So, yeah, I think that there is a statement made towards them. I just don't think that's like anywhere near the main statement that's being made, if that makes sense. And you got it.
It's an old Sicilian message. Independence sleeps with the fishes.
Okay.
There it is. Perfect, isn't it?
This has been awesome. Okay, here we go. Oligopoly.
You got to move your mic down, Nate.
Oligopoly. Let me read this for you if you can't see it. A state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers.
Give Immaculate a round of applause.
I do. I tip my hat. That was awesome.
That was Moen.
That was actually.
Okay, Moen.
I said it in the chat earlier.
Oh,
I
I
was
didn't.
just backing up
didn't
Moen
see
on
that.
that one.
Moen.
That was really good. I've never seen that before. That's definitely a Scrabble word. I'll try to use it.
I'll clap for myself.
Everybody, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm not sure if we're going to have a guest or not. I'm trying to get Bob Thompson. But definitely show up. It'll be me and Moen. Right, Moen? You can be there?
I should be.
Okay, unless there's a problem, and then we'll see then. But we appreciate everybody coming on. Scott, tonight, we really appreciate you being here. And we look to see you again and talk more about Miami. Other than that, I'm going to tip my hat to you guys and say have a good night. Stay out of trouble. Who's logged in admin? Which one of you?
I am. We all are. But
okay. All right, great. Well, have a great night, guys. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Adios.
So I've got a question for Immaculate Moan here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had a draft, and in the chat too, I'm curious about this. So if we had a draft of like, hey, what's the most valuable college football programs? Who would your top 5 be? Who would be the number 1 overall pick?
Ohio State.
Immaculate, who do you got?
If I could start with any school to start my fantasy conference.
Yes.
Harvard.
Immaculate. No, I'm talking about sports here. Sports.
Fine. I look into the future. Probably Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm Ohio State.
They got their own state and like everything. I mean, it's Ohio State.
Who would you go second?
Michigan.
I probably, honestly, if I'm being truthful about Notre Dame.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll go Michigan. 3,
Texas.
Bama.
I'm gonna agree with him. I'm gonna go Texas. Michigan would probably be my 4th.
And 4, I mean, I'm going Texas. So Notre Dame's maybe fringe top 5 in my book. That was kind of the exercise to see.
They'd be
where
number
Notre Dame's
4.
at.
They'd be number 4 in mine.
Anyway, great brand, but like, yeah, sometimes I think that we see Notre Dame as more valuable than even Ohio State.
I mean,
I don't think that's reality.
Like certain projections, I don't know if they're how real they are, but they put Notre Dame's like fan following and everything by as number 2 behind Ohio State. So I mean, they're still up there. It's just I think that they are going downwards because they are not part of a conference, and conferences have become so important that they are kind of downward trending because they're not getting cross followings from fellow conference fan followings, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But on their own, of their own following, they're still massive. And it's one of the probably the biggest national brand in terms of just having people everywhere. International as well. So, but yeah, the moment Notre Dame joins a conference, their brand actually gets bigger, like considerably, just because of cross traffic. Like what they bring to a conference is massive. That's why everyone says that Notre Dame +1 is like an $80-100 million add to the Big Ten, because that's so much that they bring in for cross traffic for everyone else as well. So just a thought.
Let's see. Let's get some. Everybody else, put yours in the chat here. I see some popping up.
Yeah, throw them in there.
Throw them in here. Daniel Gygax says West Virginia, Michigan, UGA, Bama, TOSU. How dare you, sir? How dare you? I mean, I get rating West Virginia number 1.
Hey, it's his.
Really,
You can put it in there.
Really, Ohio State number 5. Come on.
That's funny though. And Michigan's number 2. Ouch.
Bill G has Ohio State, Texas, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, I'm going to argue a little bit with Georgia. I don't think I know Georgia recency bias, but I wouldn't put Georgia in the blue blood category yet. I just wouldn't.
Is it okay if I say Oregon?
You can say whoever you like.
Because
at Harvard,
like if we're talking about just like an athletic, they do. I know Harvard. Honestly, I think Harvard's good. Anyways, that's something else. Oregon, with everything that they have for all sports, like as an athletic department, that's a monster. They're just not great as an academic university. Like they just barely make the grade. But as an athletic department, absolute monster. I think that they deserve to be in the top 5 of somebody's. I probably should have put them in mine, but I was just kind of thinking off the top of my head. But I think if we're just talking about throwing in an athletic department, Oregon's got to be in there in the top 5.
yeah, Oregon's strong, no doubt about it. So the blue blood rankings, though, based on Wikipedia, Alabama's number 1 in the football blue bloods. USC's 2, Oklahoma's 3, Ohio State's 4, and Notre Dame's 5. And that's based on historical success. It's nothing to do with brand value. So football success, Notre Dame would show up around 5.
Ryan has OSU, Bama, Texas, USC, and Michigan. A lot of these are OSU, Texas, Michigan, and Bama seem to be pretty solid in your top 4. I think you could do any of those in any order in the top 4, and I think people would buy them.
And like the question is like, how much more value does Notre Dame drive than Florida State? Like, is it really
Notre Dame? Yes, I would put it this way, because Florida State is still a regional fan base. I mean, they have some fans across the nation. I mean, Notre Dame is huge in Boston. Notre Dame is huge in New York City. Notre Dame is huge in Chicago. Basically, anywhere where there's a pocket of Catholics, you're going to have them being Notre Dame fans, simply because it's, I have several Catholic friends who never went to Notre Dame, but Cincinnati alums that are huge Notre Dame fans because they're Catholic. And that's just the way a lot of them are raised to root for Notre Dame.
So in the TV viewership in 2023, and Notre Dame, every single Notre Dame game gets on TV, right? There's no games on the Pac-12 network or the ACC network.
No, they had one on the Pac-12 network this year.
Notre Dame had a game on the Pac-12.
I think it was their
Holy smokes.
Stanford game. I think the game they played at Stanford this year was on the Pac-12 network, and I thought it was so funny because it's the last game the Pac-12 network had, and Notre Dame was relegated to it.
So Notre Dame ranked number 8 in the nation in TV viewership, even despite their NBC contract. So everything that I'm seeing here, like, is Notre Dame's a fringe top 5 brand, but maybe 5 to 10. I'm serious.
Right.
So, like, we.
I think the top 6 to 7, you could all. I think there's 6 to 7 schools that anybody could claim is a top 5 school, and you would have to just nod your head and say yes. Alabama, Ohio State from Jamie Thornton.
Mhm.
Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Notre Dame. She's got Notre Dame. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Michigan, Notre Dame from Replica.
Mhm.
2 Kings slots has Uga, Ohio State, and Texas. We don't know who 4 or
A lot
5
of
is.
Georgia showing up.
Yeah, I think that's with recency bias. This is independent schools: UConn, UMass, University of. I think that's Notre Dame, unless it's North Dakota.
Notre Dame.
Yeah. Replica, Notre Dame's football program is mediocre, but decades of NBC affiliation puts them on another level compared to other schools.
I wouldn't say they're mediocre. I mean, they're not
They
the
haven't
highest of top tier, but they're like, right below that.
They haven't won a major bowl game since 1994.
I would say that their brand has had a continual decline since 1994. Probably reached a fever pitch in the 80s, early 90s, but it's not the brand it used to be.
They have good
Yeah.
seasons, and they think they're great, and then when they play competition, they just get absolutely waxed.
When did Rudy come out? Rudy is like 90s, right? Early 90s?
90s, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the peak of Notre Dame brand.
Jose says Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Texas, Bama. Jose, I think that's how you pronounce your name, Jose. I know people, Josie, Jose.
I think it's Jose.
I think
yeah.
you're trying to say Jose, so that's what I'm going to say. Scott White from Florida. It will be interesting to see if the attendance viewership drops and at Oregon State and West Washington State with Group 5 schedule. I know overall attendance viewership will with Mountain West Conference road games versus their old Pac-12 schools.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you
think
guys?
about that one?
Mm,
I think that's probably correct. I mean, Oregon State, I think, is probably still going to pack home games. Washington State too, because they're small college towns. Those are games that the students actually attend.
I think that they've kind of found this not weird, but hasn't existed before position where they are the Cinderella. Like, we have that for basketball tournament, and that's for basketball. We have Cinderella teams, but now with they are the realignment Cinderellas.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of people, myself included, who've kind of they've landed on our radar. Like, if I see an Oregon State game on, and I'm not, really any other game that I'm totally into, I'm watching it. I did last year, and I kind of learned, like, wow, going to one of their live games with their crowd there with the chainsaws and everything, it's just kind of wild. Like, I wouldn't mind going to another game. So I think that they've kind of found a different position. Washington State a little bit less. Oregon State, they've kind of found that little place where everyone kind of knows their name. DJ Ugale definitely helped with that.
Sure.
It made them on the map for all the people out east. Like, he went where? Oregon State? Okay, well, let's check that out. It made them real. So I think they're going to have higher attendance and viewership than people think. But it's going to get tough when that shine, that special status kind of slowly starts to wear off. But I think this year, I think they're still going to get pretty good viewership.
I think a lot of it last year was that they were the heroes fighting the villains in the Pac-12, fighting those who left them behind. They don't really have that narrative this season.
There's kind of like, we want to see them. I want to see them go undefeated and dare everyone to not put them in the first 12-team CFP. That's what I'd like to see out of Oregon State this year. Is it
Man, that'd be
possible?
awesome.
Maybe not. But that would be one hell of a damn story. So
Oregon
that's kind of
State,
what I'm
yeah.
going for.
Oregon State and Wazoo have loyal fan bases, great fan bases. They will show up to games. It's going to sting, playing a Mountain West type schedule, and over time that might impact things. But Research Stadium, Oregon State Stadium, is brand new, guys. It was fully built. It was last year was the first year it was ready to go. Like Oregon State really got screwed in this realignment cycle. It stinks. But they've got loyal fans, and they'll show up and everything. And both programs have been up and down. The fans have stuck with it. So I think that, if they get a bunch of wins in this new era, that they'll show up again. And I hope to see them in the CFP as well.
Big Ten fan, look at his top 5. His or hers top 5.
You guys are so bad.
He wants you to be in serious trouble. That's what he wants.
It only counts once.
Man, you Big Ten guys are nuts.
That was funny,
Whoa.
but kind of mean Big Ten fan.
Yeah. Edward Weiner, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, and Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's pretty much, we all know that. I mean, I would say, okay, if we want to ask anyone, ask them what their 6 through 10 is. That's when you're going to start to get differences. Right now, everyone's saying the same ones. I put up there, Mr. Sergeant Pickles said I think he said he threw up when he heard me say Oregon. But,
He threw up, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I put it up there. I started. But I'd still stand by that. If we're talking about just adding an athletic department, we're not talking the school. I mean, obviously, Washington runs laps around Oregon in that regard. If I was adding just a school for a conference and it was based on the school, Washington would be probably maybe in the top 5 too. But Oregon, that athletic department, it's the building that Knight built. I mean, the USA Olympic, they have the Olympic team stuff there, the trials. They have the whole setup there for it. I mean, it is kind of a special place for a lot of things that aren't, just football and basketball. So that's what I would put them at least in my top 10.
Oregon has never won a natty, though. That's correct. That's why they have a big goose egg as their symbol.
I think Oregon's going to. Wait. On that comment, 1 second, though. I think Oregon has a real shot of winning natty this next year. I'm serious about that stuff, Tony. Like, Oregon's team is going to be stacked. They have so much talent coming in. They lose Bo Nix, but still, like, they are so loaded elsewhere. I could definitely see them win the Big Ten. They're going to be a top 5 team.
They got a tough schedule next year. They got Ohio State at home, but I mean that's an Ohio State team that's pretty much hell bent for leather.
You got to be like a top 2 seed, right? A 1 or 2 seed to have that first round bye if you want to win the national championship. And so you got to win the Big Ten if you're Oregon and Ohio State.
Right. I think I tend to agree with you. I think that game at Ohio State at Oregon next year is going to determine who the Big Ten did. They could play each other in the championship game again.
Yeah.
I think Oregon and Ohio State have the best rosters in the Big Ten next season. Daniel Gygax, UGA has filled up a 90K building for decades and get a ton of eyeballs watching their football. I don't disagree with you, but for blue blood status, you have to have a lot of national championships. I think they have 3 total. Am I getting that right? I think they got 2, and then they won one in the 80s with Herschel Walker.
Mm-hmm.
So a few more titles, they'll be up there. Michigan fan, 19 national, 45 conference. Put an asterisk there. Notre Dame is global.
Global. So does that equate to TV viewership? Global?
What? It
Streaming.
does, though. I mean, look at them playing in Dublin.
That's going to matter a lot more in streaming.
Didn't Georgia Tech play in Dublin?
Is that who they were playing
No,
in
it
Dublin?
was Notre Dame versus like Navy or
Was it Navy?
I think it was Navy. Yeah, they blew them out.
All right, let me get through.
Yeah, people are not liking my Oregon pick. That's okay.
Well, some had Notre Dame number 1, so there you go.
I am behind and just threw up that you said the Duckies. They are a marketing agency with a school attached. Nothing real about them.
Exactly. Like that's what we're picking. It's like if you're going to build your athletic conference, that sounds exactly like what you would grab. But this has nothing to do with the school.
Steve-O with a question. In the playoffs, will there be 2 Saturday games going the same time, 2 Friday night games going, 1 Thursday night game? Not sure how you get 8 solo games on TV in one weekend if 16-team playoff. This one's actually pretty easy. You run 3 games on Thursday, or 2 games on Thursday, 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. I think you run an afternoon game on Thursday, you run a night game on Thursday, you run a noon to night game on... Oh, Bomber's back.
He's back.
Uh-oh.
Hey,
Put the
Bomber.
pillows away, everybody.
Off by a half hour. It's not till 8:30. Sorry about that.
Very good.
That's all right.
Me anyway.
Now we had to put away all the party accoutrements now.
Right, yeah. Everything you do when the dad leaves the house, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone sit up a little bit
That's
more.
right.
Prim and
Thanks for the
proper.
keg.
So what are you talking about now?
We're just doing
your-
some
your
Q&A.
top 5. Oh, he should get his.
Oh yeah, give us your top 5 schools.
Like if you're to build your own conference of any school, you could just take any.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so BYU number 1.
He's already ruined it, but go ahead.
Ohio State,
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
Okay.
So BYU can beat Notre Dame. I would say, boy, out of the South, I don't know, Alabama or Georgia. Not both of them, but one of them. And Washington. So I've got bias to a few of those. Number 6 would be Utah, so we could beat them too.
Whoop, whoop.
Most people were picking Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Alabama, a lot of Georgias.
I don't follow any of those people though.
Yeah.
I don't
Jamie
know.
Thornton, 20-team super conference networks would want Ohio State, Bama, Michigan, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, Penn State, Oregon, Washington, USC, LSU, Florida State, Tennessee, Florida, Wisconsin, Missouri, Utah, Clemson.
How are you going to pick Missouri
No.
over Iowa? Jamie,
No.
get out of here.
Jamie, what are you
What are you
doing?
Jamie, that is
Jamie.
a beautiful list.
It's the worst list I've ever
Bless
had.
you,
for
Jamie.
Wolverine.
You seriously, Missouri over Iowa? That's
There's
Who's
some
going to be
crazy
the
ones.
loser?
We got
Who's
a
going to be the
problem
loser
here.
in that conference, guys?
Nobody's thinking Utah is supposed to be in that list.
I don't know
I'm
what you're
telling you
talking
right now.
about, Bomber. This looks perfect to me.
It's
now.
not.
This
It's
has
a
made
bad
my
list.
night.
It's a bad list.
Jamie's just having it at it.
Jamie is
Even-
now
she
down
even
to the
admits it.
bottom of the
She even
membership
admits
list.
it.
Jamie she's
She
rising.
didn't put in Arkansas. She did not put in Arkansas. I will note that.
I'm just teasing. Everybody's opinions are important.
Yeah, but she's like a half Washington fan.
okay.
By her own admittal, because her
Yeah.
Okay.
Her dad was a
Spouse is
Washington fan. Her
Washington,
mother was
so-
an Arkansas fan.
Yeah,
So she's
okay.
a half Washington fan.
Kind of like you.
Uh,
He has family ties going
Right.
to 2 schools.
K-State.
So
If SEC abandonment of Notre Dame is beneficial to the Big, what has the SEC gotten in return? Big hands off UVA and UNC? Probably.
Yeah.
probably.
Notre Dame is beneficial.
makes so much
One of the
sense.
things I was saying from the beginning was
What?
that their little thing together. I think if there's anyone that it was a statement to, it was the North Carolina Board of Governors. That's who it was a statement to, because they were trying to play those 2 conferences off against each other. Like, whoever has the better offering, that's who you're going to get it. And I think they're just saying, we're not playing your game. We're going to decide who gets it, and you're going to deal with it, or they're going to sit and rot in the ACC.
Why do we think that anybody would take Virginia Tech and North Carolina State?
Because
I don't know why
they're good.
people.
I don't.
You wouldn't take them as the
we
Big
could have
12?
a great debate about this. Virginia.
No,
Tech-
I'm talking about if you're the SEC or the Big Ten. Why
Oh.
do you want those 2 schools?
You don't.
Is the value of UNC worth taking on NC State? I don't think so.
No.
So if they can't break them apart, like Washington, Washington State, Oregon, and Oregon State, they don't follow every other Iowa State. They don't break those apart. Like, this is meritocracy, as you just said many times. They need to earn it, and they haven't earned it.
Well,
Just getting a free ride on somebody. Everybody can't be UCLA. That's all I got to say.
that's where things like this actually changes. Like if I was to say, in the past I said North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State, this could change that. It could just be North Carolina and Virginia to the SEC, and then you guys in the Big 12 get North Carolina State and Virginia Tech.
Yep.
Because, I don't think that they're going after everyone with this SEC Big 10 advisory group, but it shows that they're working together. And so I don't think that the North Carolina Board of Governors is going to have as much an easy time playing them off against each other, like is what I thought that they were doing.
Do you
they
think?
said that, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, because I think that their whole thing was saying we're going to look over all the numbers for any possible realignment move by any school. So what they're basically saying is we're going to look at the cost of going to the Big 10 versus the cost of going to the SEC, all the benefits, and see which one is better. They're kind of playing them against each other. And I think that whole plan is now out the window. I think the SEC and the Big 10 are like, no, we're not going to dance to your tune.
In what world do we think the presidents of Ole Miss and LSU are going to be okay with bringing on carpetbaggers like NC State and Virginia Tech just to pick up a North Carolina school that probably isn't worth what Vanderbilt is today? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you, 100%, Nate. Like that's just the case of it. Virginia Tech and NC State are Big 12 caliber schools. They are not going to get in the SEC or the Big 10. They never were. No matter what the political landscape looked like. They just didn't merit it. They didn't warrant it financially. And the combo of North Carolina State doesn't equate to even money for the SEC teams in the conference already. So why the heck would you add them? It's dilutive.
I think I actually think as singular elements, Virginia Tech is better than Virginia as a singular addition.
You could make that argument. I can see.
But Virginia's their whole card is the fact that they're tied to North Carolina, and that's it.
Well, in their academics, they have other advantages.
I think North Carolina State is technically better as a numbers wise, followers wise than North Carolina, but North Carolina gets all the love from the networks. They want to get shown more. They have more money for the Big 10. They're definitely desired more. The SEC probably doesn't want them to go there. So, it just kind of depends upon your comparison. But I think North Carolina State and Virginia Tech get dunked on a little bit too much in terms of their value. But it's just the way it all plays out. Yeah, they're kind of the second fiddle.
Based on what metric are they dunked on? Because I've seen Utes charts, not everybody else's charts, but Utes that I know have facts behind them, and that both those schools lag significantly far behind.
Well, we were talking about amount of time. Like I know Virginia Tech's viewership numbers have been down lately, but when you just look at like their fan following and the people that go there and the show that they put on locally, it's a better product. It's a better for TV. I think that they would have more chance for success in the SEC than Virginia. I know Virginia Tech's had some low numbers lately, but you can't just look at like the base numbers. You got to look at who they play, who are they scheduled against, what did that show up with? Whereas Virginia maybe had a North Carolina game or maybe a Florida State game. Like it depends upon really in the ACC who you played against as to what numbers you get. So that's my point. Is I don't think it's that simple, but I get it, and the numbers, they don't lie. But I just think over the long term, I think Virginia Tech's a better property than what they've shown as of late.
Yeah, one last thought on this
Makes
Virginia
sense.
conversation too. I think that the biggest paper tiger in realignment is the University of Virginia, the Cavaliers. If you really do a deep dive in Virginia, I mean, they don't bring nearly as much value to the table as you think on the surface when you really dig into it. And for the Big Ten, since they already own DC through Maryland, they provide no value. They just don't. They would be a very below average Big Ten team, akin to, in the Indiana range, I think.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. We've got 134 people still watching. If you guys could give us a like that would be fantastic. That helps us so much in the YouTube algorithm. Doesn't cost you anything. If you're watching this on demand, please leave a comment in the comment section. We do check and interact with fans in the comment section. Again, that's also helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and it's very important to us. I want to thank everybody who's donated to Super Chat tonight. We did fantastic in Super Chat. You guys are helping us keep the lights on around here. I want to thank Summit Hawk again for gifting a membership, and Rock and Rant for gifting. Summit Hawk gifted 5, and Rock and Rant gifted 1. I hope those people who got those memberships thank Rock and Rant and Summit Hawk and skedaddle after this is over to go watch that Clemson video. Before we go, final question from Tough Tony Lawson. Will Duke, financially, what 2 schools in the ACC make the most sense for the Big?
Well, I'm going to include Notre Dame in that, and Notre Dame would be number 1, Florida State number 2. Number 3 would be Miami.
Okay.
There it is.
All right. Before we go, Sarge, Big Mafia Enforcer, has re-upped his membership. He's been a member for 2 months now.
Good man. Good man.
Thank you, Sarge. We appreciate it. With that, we will see you tomorrow night. Keep an eye on Twitter. We'll keep you updated if Bob Thompson's coming on or not. That's not confirmed yet, but I'm sure Nate will keep bugging him. So keep us up. Just keep an eye on Twitter, and we'll see you guys later. Peace out.
See ya. Peace.
Utes.